And I need to do my due diligence and read the governor's executive order, which states, this meeting of the Public Works and Planning Commission of Rutherford County is being conducted electronically pursuant to Governor Bill Lee's Executive Order number 16. I would ask for a motion that conducting the meeting electronically is necessary to protect public health, safety, and welfare in light of the coronavirus. Need a motion?
So moved.
And a second. All right, Rachel, will you call roll, and this will also count as roll call.
Commissioner Blair?
Yes.
Commissioner Dodd?
Yes.
Commissioner Harris?
Yes.
Commissioner Piercy?
Yes.
Commissioner P? Commissioner Sereno?
Yes.
Chairman Cush?
Yes. All right. Looks like we have a full house, correct? All right. Welcome, audience. Let's go into a first item of business would be a traffic signal conversation.
Minutes.
Well, of course, yeah. It's like 1 minute after. Yeah. I would like to call on Vice Chairman Steve Piercy to approve the minutes of last meeting, please.
Chairman Cush, I have reviewed the minutes and find them in order. I move for their approval.
Need a second. Thank you, Shanto. Thank you, Steve.
Commissioner Dodd?
Yes.
Commissioner Harris?
Yes.
Commissioner Piercy?
Yes.
Commissioner P?
Yes.
Commissioner Sereno?
Yes.
Commissioner Blair?
Yes.
Chairman Cush?
Yes. All right. Now, if you will turn to the traffic signal tab on your iPad, you will see this is a signal along I-840 near the racetrack, and we have two options of a bid price here that we need to discuss and let Mayor have the power to go forward on what we decide. So, Mayor, if you'd like to explain.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. About a little over a month ago, I got a phone call from our county engineer, Mike Hughes. Mike said that he might just want to bring it to my attention that we have the Alley 400 race that is coming back to the racetrack at the Nashville Speedway. And it's been 10 or 15 years since they've actually had a race there. So Alley is the GM financial wing of General Motors. And even though the racetrack is in Wilson County, this red light at the intersection on 840 where you get off at the Speedway exit belongs to Rutherford County. It's one of our 5 or 6 red lights that we actually have. And so I put a call in to Mayor Hutto to see if I could talk him into taking on the whatever expenses were of that red light, and he wanted to swap a piece of property with me, and I'd give him a nice parcel of property. And I said, where you going? I just tell Commissioner, I said, what you want to swap? You going to give me Cedars of Lebanon, or, he wants to put a McDonald's or something, some kind of fast food there at the exit before the racetrack. Anyway, all that kidding aside, the light belongs to us. It's been blinking for the last 10 or 15 years. And so I immediately called S&W Contracting because they are the ones that currently services our other lights that we have, the few that we do have. And so they went out and took a look at it, and they came back. They said that there are two cameras that are the motion sensing cameras that activate the light to change. And of course they're outdoors, and about the life of these outdoor cameras is about 10 years, and he said they're totally dead. And so that's option number one, is to replace the existing 2-camera video detection system with a new video detection system. The whole thing's shot. Now, if we want to put in, upgrade the lamps inside the red, yellow, and green lights to LEDs, which will save on electricity, you see the price there at $23,000. So we're basically obligated to repair this light. So the two options are before you, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Any discussions or questions for the mayor in regards to these two quotes? I have one comment, but I'm going to wait and see if you guys have anything first.
Mr. Mayor, do you know, as far as the savings, on a traffic light with LED, there's a $5,000 difference here. So if they stay there 10 years or 15 years, would we make that $5,000 back, do you think?
Everybody tells you that you're going to save, and even on the little packages when you buy them for the house, and how much it's going to save you. I don't know anything about a red light other than know when to stop and go.
Yeah.
I like the visual aspect of the LED for safety.
They're brighter.
Yes, sir.
Bill, do you have any knowledge on LED versus conventional lighting? Jay, not to put you on the spot, but do you? All right. Does anybody?
How about a road superintendent? You know anything about red lights?
Yeah, okay. The comment I had was, the next line down was about the exclusions. Bond, electrical design, engineering and layout, pavement markings, easements. We may need to remark the pavement, I'm not sure. I don't know that we would have to do any digging or trenching in the pavement because it sounds like everything's already in place, right? So
Yeah,
we wouldn't be touching the pavement.
The video cameras, they told me, correct me, Greg, if I'm wrong, but there's two different detection triggers. One is laid into the asphalt that is pressure sensitive, that changes the light.
Yeah.
We didn't do that here. We use the video cameras.
Okay, all right. So from the exclusions, there's no real big ticket item surprise probably that we're going to have to.
I'm just kind of sticker shocked at.
All right.
Okay. Never done one of these.
Yeah. So the question is 18 versus 23. 23 is the same package as one, other than we're upgrading to LED lights, which are, to me, a more visual, brighter incandescent or candle power, and a less maintenance over the life of the light. But that's about all I can tell you with my opinion.
This light, isn't it right on the county line at the racetrack?
Yes, sir. The exit is in Rutherford County, but you go down about 100 yards and it becomes
Wilson County.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Do we get any revenue off that racetrack at all?
Not that I'm aware of. Now, I'm sure we will. Just hotels, restaurants, and a lot of people will come to Murfreesboro and stay.
Indirectly.
Indirectly.
Yes,
We don't get a piece of the ticket price.
I didn't think we
we're
did.
not getting a gate.
Yeah.
My opinion, I would go with the least amount. It'll fix the problem.
Okay. Is that your motion?
I'll make it a motion, yes.
All right, so we have a motion to take the lesser of the two evils, which is the $18,000 conventional lighting. We would need a second or further discussion? I guess you need a second first and then further discussion. Seeing none.
Second.
Oh, we have a second. Now we can have further discussion.
And my only hesitation was just to make sure everybody's in. Let's just do this. We've had the luxury of neglecting it for so many years. I agree with Steve. We may have to do more maintenance later if this light is going to get turned back on. There are lots of races, and we may do the bulbs later. It may cost us more later for a mobilization, but let's spend the 18 and do the minimum and move on.
All right.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Commissioner P.
would it help if we, say, waited a month and asked some of these engineers which is the best way to go? Only since it doesn't sound like any of us have a really good feel on whether it'd be worth the extra money or not.
Isn't the race in June?
I think the race is in.
Is there someone we could talk to in that time and then bring it back in a month, or do we need to go ahead and get this done?
Chairman P., my only concern is I believe the race is scheduled for June, so this summer. So, I don't know what S&W's schedule is now, and to delay it a month and then get them back on schedule to have this ready for traffic in June may be cutting it a little close. I'm just throwing that out there. I don't know that for a fact, but knowing how busy all subcontractors are right now, I would imagine this is something that they're going to be weeks out on before they can get to it.
Mr. Chairman, on the bid proposal,
June
this thing
20th.
was, I'm sorry. On
June
the
20th is the race.
bid proposal was March 22nd. It could be withdrawn in 30 days, so, so.
Yeah. Could get higher.
Yeah.
Yeah. Chairman P., I love you, but I think we need to move on it tonight.
I don't have a problem with that. I just thought if we had someone we could ask,
Yeah.
if it would be better to go with the LED light versus the cheaper version, maybe report back to us at the full commission. That way we'd know. But I don't even know that we have somebody that we can ask. That was basically my question, if it was worthwhile waiting to find out. Sounds like it's not.
Yeah. All right. We have a motion on the floor to accept the $18,000 bid at this point. You want to bring that to a vote, roll call vote, or are we finished with discussion? Rachel? I can see your wheels turning, but.
Commissioner Harris?
No.
Commissioner Piercy?
Yes.
Commissioner P?
No.
Commissioner Chirino?
Yes.
Commissioner Blair?
Yes.
Commissioner Dodd?
Discussion's over? Yes.
I asked for any other discussion.
Chairman Cush?
No. Yeah, you roll the dice, you win some, you lose some, right?
Motion
All right.
passes.
Does this light need to be operable? And what's the backup plan here?
Was the first part of your question, when does it have to be operable? Well, the race is June 20th.
June 20th.
Right.
So,
There is no backup plan. It better be operational by June 20th.
Yeah.
Do or die.
well, what I'll do in the morning, I'll contact Mr. Williamson, the project manager at S&W, see how quickly he can get out there to change the cameras, because I'm sure that they'll want to. I'm assuming they have already checked to see if all the lamps are burning, and get his opinion, and I can come back to the full commission next week and tell you what his opinion is.
The reason I struggled with my vote, Mr. Chairman, I really like the safety aspect of the LEDs, but I see the savings at this point, and also that we need to move on with this, get ready for the race.
Yeah. All right. We good to go?
Irregardless, I'll give you a report
All right.
during your committee report next Thursday.
And I guess if you are talking with somebody that has intimate knowledge of LED versus conventional, if they bring on a good argument, bring that back to
Yes,
full
sir.
commission, and we can always readdress it.
I will.
And that would, yes.
I mean, the reason that I voted against it is because I think we should have the LED lighting. I think that we need to start looking in, it's going to save us money in the long run. So that's why I said that I'm against this. I'm for this,
Yeah.
a light, but I'm against doing it the less expensive way and do it with the LED lighting.
Right.
So yes, I will bring that up in the.
Yeah. So if we can get engineering knowledge that would suffice an
Well,
argument.
it might be good to ask the question, if, once they get it up and running, and then all of a sudden one lamp burns out between now and the race time, what's going to be your service call to come back out, and what would that one light, or two lights, cost be?
Well, and again, not knowing, it may not be as easy as changing one lamp for another. It may need
I don't have
a
a
completely
clue.
different wiring
Yeah.
system, for all I know. I don't I don't know. All right, more information to come then?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right, very good. All right, so we at least have a safety net that we're going conventional, perhaps upgrade at full commission if we have the right information. Highway Department report. And while you're coming up, Mr. Brooks, I would like to, on behalf of all residents of Rutherford County, thank you and your department for the extraordinary amount of work and, above the call of duty that you had to deal with a few weekends ago during a couple of major rain events.
Our guys really did a good job. There's a lot of effort went into it. It's a big county, and I was very concerned. It was only worse than it actually turned out to be, because we got the ice first, and then we got the snow, and wait for the accumulated ice and snow on all the trees. I was afraid none of us would have electricity. And it turned out it wasn't as good as I thought it would be. Thank you very much. And I will pass that on to the people that actually did the work.
Flip the switch on the mic for me. No. Okay, got it. Thank you.
So yes, I'll pass that on to like I said, the people that did the actual work.
Okay.
Okay, tonight I have a few things for your review. Of all of these things, there's two budget amendments, and then our full operating budget moving forward for this next fiscal year. So we'll do the two budget amendments first, and all three of these items were approved at by the road board unanimously yesterday morning. So this is coming to you for your approval to pass it on to the budget committee, as you're, I'm sure, aware. The first one I have here is a budget amendment request for our project that is underway at Plainview at the new school site. Because of our structure, the way our fiscal year runs, the road board meets twice in June and does not meet in July. So I'm going to go ahead, because the month of July, halfway through June, and the month of July will be the big push out there. I feel like we'll encounter quite a bit of expenditures trying to get in front of this new school opening. So we are going to move $1,909,000 from our fund balance to the different line items in our Plainview school accounts. That will bring that total that we've moved from our fund balance to make these road improvements out there to $5 million. So one of the board members asked me if this was going to be enough to finish the project that we had taken on, which I'm referring to that as round one of these road improvements, and I said I am cautiously optimistic that it will be, but a lot of things can happen. So hopefully this is all we'll have to have. But so anyway, like I said, this was approved by the road board. It is coming straight from the fund balance of the highway department, which I'm sure you're all aware, but maybe there's somebody out there that's listening that's not aware. Our fund balance is money that we've saved from our operating expenses annually, and it accumulates in an ending fund balance because of the fact that it came from, a lot of it came from, it didn't come from the general fund of the county, so it doesn't go back into the general fund. The money we don't spend, we accumulate in a fund balance. It has to be spent for roads.
Chairman?
Yes, sir, you're recognized.
Hey, Greg, I'm going back to 2 years ago when we talked about this in budget.
Okay.
With this 1909, you're saying it's going to be that makes it up to $5 million?
Correct.
But you gave a very optimistic idea it'd be around $7 million.
Right.
So
That's a good
we're
memory.
looking pretty good right now.
Knock on wood.
Okay. Because I just want to make sure, I know that we talked about this, and it was $7 million is what you felt like we would be at. So I think it's a great job. Actually, it's a very good job to save us. Right now, I know it ain't locked in, but
Right.
looking pretty good right now on that. So good job.
Right. We have a really good crew out there. They're thin. We pulled people from other crews that were, and put them together and sent them out there, and they've really done an outstanding job, above and beyond. And give credit where credit's due. Those crews that we had to pick these people off of, they're struggling too. Now they're shorthanded. So everybody's really pulled together on this, and hopefully this will finish it up. But if not, I'll be right back here again.
So all this that you're doing, and you're talking about pulling crews and all that, are you maintaining the high integrity you got right now of our other roads?
Absolutely.
Are we still on schedule and everything?
Absolutely. Yes, we are.
Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Brooks, several months ago, we talked about the, I won't say miscommunication, but maybe some lack of communication between all the entities when we're building a school.
Mm-hmm.
You think that has improved, that we're able to communicate and what they have planned in their future and what their hopes are, and that there's been some conversation, especially in the areas where they might need some substantial road improvements in the future?
I do believe that we have opened up a line of communication that was non-existent before this conversation all started back 2.5 years ago. And it's, it's a line of communication that should have been there all along, but it's not always black and white. A lot of times it's gray. There's a lot of reasons that there wasn't communication, and so I won't get into all that. But yes, I do feel like we have a good relationship right now with the BOE. Y'all need me to make a motion?
So moved.
All right. All right, we have a second. And for approval of the slide of money to a different account, Rachel?
Mr. P?
Yes.
Mr. Blair?
Yes.
Mr. Dodd?
Yes.
Commissioner Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Piercy?
Yes.
Commissioner Chirino?
Yes.
Chairman Cush?
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, Greg, continue.
Okay, the next thing is, the next budget amendment is per the county officials' salary schedule for 2021. The salary of the road superintendent was a little off, and this amendment is to correct that. This is moving money inside of our existing budget to make that correction. It will be coming from our secretarial line item and moving into our administrative line item. $5,274.
All right, pretty self-explanatory. Any questions on that? Phil?
No questions.
Any questions?
Mr. Chairman, motion to approve.
We have a motion
Second that.
to approve and a second from Commissioner Dodd. Rachel?
Mr. Piercy?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mr. P?
Yes.
Commissioner Chirino?
Yes.
Commissioner Dodd?
Yes.
Mr. Blair?
Yes.
Chairman Cush?
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right.
Okay, now moving on to our fiscal year 21-22 operating budget, the big stuff. I'm not sure. Well, I need to say that Miss Mary, my department coordinator, the brains of this outfit, is out with a back injury.
Uh-oh.
So I'm not sure exactly what you see on your iPads. However, I'm making an assumption that you see a budget summary. Is that right?
Yes, we do.
Okay, so if you see the budget summary, then you see that we have tried to just hold the line on where we were, what we had this year. That's what we're going to try to do next year as far as our projected revenues. We've moved some things around in some expenditure line items to make do with the projected revenue that we have for this year. Like I said, we're just trying to hold the line. As we all know, COVID is, taking us all down a path that we could have never predicted, and we still do not know what the all the repercussions of that will be, financially moving forward. We don't know if there's going to be another shutdown. We hope there's not, but a lot of our revenue comes from gasoline tax. So if people aren't traveling, if people are staying at home, it's going to have a really negative impact on our revenue. Also, gasoline's trending up, as we all know. So that also has a negative impact on our revenue because gasoline tax is a flat tax. If it's $2 a gallon, we collect the same 28 cents roughly, and if it's $10 a gallon, it's the same, 28 cents. It's a flat tax. So if it gets too high, people will, conserve and not travel. So we're trying to just kind of hold the line, and hopefully our expenditures will not outpace our revenue.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
So the gas tax from last year, this year was $5,100,000, and we incorporated a lot of the COVID year in that.
Correct.
Did that revenue come in as you had hoped?
It did, and now it takes about 4 months to really figure out where you're at. So we're seeing some decreased revenue. There's no question about it. We get emails from TCHOA and Tennessee County Highway Officials Association and CTASC, and they're all saying be conservative, be prepared, and that's what we're trying to do while trying to take care of all of our assets at the same time. We're cautiously optimistic that this is going to work, just like we are on the budget amendment for the Plainview schools. But we have always tried to be very conservative on our revenue estimates, and so far we've come in under budget. So,
with the big push on electric vehicles, what do you perceive
There's a lot of talk out there. I don't want to interrupt you, Mr. Blair, but there's a lot of talk out there about maybe some different options on how to collect some revenue from these electric vehicles. There is a big push on electric vehicles. A lot, 2025 is supposed to be a benchmark to get some more of these out on the road. So I don't know how that's going to play out, but they are looking for avenues to try to collect some revenue from some of these electric vehicles to kind of insert into some capital projects for roads and bridges. A little bit.
Mr. Brooks?
Yes.
I'm asking a question because I don't know it.
Okay.
Can you explain to me what flood control is?
Flood control? Where is it we're looking?
Item 46810 on revenue.
46810 revenue. Flood control.
I'm not trying.
Mr. Harris, I really am reluctant to answer that because I do not know exactly what that's referring to right there. I do not know. That has to be money that is captured from the state.
No, it's
for
fine.
some work in our PW department.
I just don't know what it is.
That's what my assumption is, and I'll be happy to get you that answer before the full commission meeting. As you're aware, these budget amendments will go to budget Thursday night, but this full budget will go at a later date. So I'll be happy to.
The reason I asked
answer.
that question, Mr. Brooks, is we just had a flood.
Didn't look like 11,005 is going to cover it, by the way. So, yeah, I concur. I'll get you those answers before the commission meeting.
Any further discussion? And I guess, Greg, along that note that Chairman Harris brought up, the monies you had to outlay for those last couple of weekends and anything that might come up, I know some of us have talked about possible improvements needed on some of the low water bridges in the county. Is there a way to do better signage or gate locking of some type to absolutely try and keep the crazy people that can't read signs or don't believe the signs are true that continue to cross in a high water situation? Is there money, I guess, set aside in your budget now that you've seen again some of the damage that can be done? Do you have money in your budget for any of those low water bridge examinations?
First of all, I want to say I feel odd talking to you with my back turned.
That's okay.
But
I can hear
I do
you
feel
fine.
like I need to be in the mic. So you mentioned a couple of things. The main question is there money in the budget to make improvements to some of these low water crossings? And the answer is not specifically. However, anytime we see a problem and we see an opportunity to correct the problem, we will find a way to come up with the funds to make those corrections. A lot of these low water crossings are, they're still in, believe it or not, I guess relatively speaking, they're still in pretty rural areas. Lower, traffic count, traffic volume. So you kind of have to weigh out, how much money you want to put there when we have these bridges and crossings that are 10 times the traffic volume that also need maintained and improved. So I don't have any specifics, Commissioner Cush, but I can tell you, because you mentioned something about signage and potentially gated areas. I have some thoughts on that. First of all, I don't believe there's a place out there where a gate would actually not expose us to liability beyond what we're exposed to right now. Somebody's going to have to man that gate. That gate's not going to operate itself. Somebody's going to have to make the decision when the gate's closed, when the gate's open. Anytime there's a gate, if there's water on the road, that cuts off citizens from their properties, from their homes, from being able to go to school, church, whatever, the store. But a lot of times it's passable for emergency vehicles. So you gated out emergency vehicles, and the detour route often is challenging and never marked. But I do not believe we can consider gates as an option on any of the flooded areas that I'm aware of. We have put up, when I first came into office, a lady that I respect greatly that worked for the county for many, many years, she's retired now, called me, because she listens to the scanner all the time, and she said, you've got to have better response time when the sheriff's department calls you and tells you that you have a flooded road. Your response time's too long. So we made some signs. We have our own sign shop. We made some signs that are permanently mounted in place at the known areas of the low water crossings that you were referring to, probably. And they flip up. So the sheriff's department, if they get a call or if they just happen by an area that's flooded, they can stop their car, get out, flip that road closed sign up right then, and then call us, and we come out and fortify that. So that's helped a lot. But a lot of this, at some point, we have to have personal accountability. You cannot make the assumption that since there's not been somebody from the highway department or EMA or the sheriff's department, which those agencies are really helping us with these floods nowadays. But So shout out to those guys. But you cannot make the assumption that since someone has not been out in front of you and put up a sign that says road closed, high water, that it's safe to drive through that water. You have to have some personal accountability there. We have to take some responsibility for our actions. We have to teach that to our children. So just because there's not a sign there does not mean it's okay. We've kind of spoiled people going out and putting these signs up. That's not to say that, I've got pictures of folks that drive video. We'll be out putting up a sign, closing a road. A road that floods frequently because of sinkholes discharging water. And people will drive around us and go out there and stall out. Then we have, so I'm going to be careful what I say here, but we have to have some accountability on a personal level. The sign won't fix everything, but we are working hard at the mayor's request recently, because we had so many flooded areas recently. We ran out of signs, so I did do an inventory, and I have those numbers, but it's a huge. It's a huge cumbersome thing when we have a countywide event like we had just 2 weekends ago. It takes a lot of there's a lot of moving parts, but we got to get the message out to people that it's just not worth the risk. You're not just risking your own property. You're not just risking your own safety. You're risking the safety of the people that are going to have to come and get you. And I know those people, and I can tell you that it will not matter to them how foolish you were. That will not be something they take into consideration. They're going to come and get you if there's any way they can. So take that thought home with you, that they have family too. So we got to be careful when we're making decisions that affect other people. I kind of got a rant there.
Thank you. No, thank you. It needed to be said.
Mr. Chairman, I've got one comment, and I want to again thank Superintendent Brooks for everything that they've done. I've asked him, as he's done, is to get an inventory sign or an inventory of all of his signs, and ask him to sit down, and I believe they're going to try to get together with our Public Safety Director, Chris Clark, and look at the signs. If we need more flip-ups, these signs like Superintendent was talking about, whatever we need. 600 square miles is a large county, and we have a lot of flooding here because we're down in that bowl, that Cumberland Bowl, so we need to pay attention to that. What I might suggest, Mr. Chairman, back in 2006 when I was in the Senate, I represented Lincoln County. Mayor Peggy Bevels had called me and asked me, because they had down in Fayetteville, they had a lady and her 2 kids drove around the barrier and had to be rescued by the Lincoln County Rescue Squad, or their first responders. And she asked me to do something in the legislature, which I came back in 2007 and passed a law, and it's in the code, that gives counties authority to issue citations to anybody who drives around a posted barricade during a flooding situation. That's where the term kind of came out that year when we passed the bill, turn around, don't drown, that we used, but no county has stepped up and actually started issuing citations. I think if we start doing that, then the word might travel that I had to pay $500 or something, because just like a volunteer fire department, if a volunteer fire department, under your homeowner's insurance, they will pay, Commissioner Blair, they'll pay, if you live in a rural area, volunteer, and they charge you $300 for responding to the fire, the policy will pay for it. There may be some if by the negligence of that driver, I don't know if the insurance policy would pay for that. Auto policy would pay if they drove around. I don't know. There's some negligence there. However, just like we had a semi, I believe our public safety director said that we had a semi that got washed off of a I believe it's on Armstrong Valley, maybe
Sulphur Springs.
Washita. When they got to him, I forgot how many, we had over 20 fast water rescues that weekend. This coming Thursday night, I've got a father and daughter, and they're going to come and give testimony. We had to rescue them. By the time that our first responders got there, they were trying to get their equipment out, to get their wetsuits on, because they had been washed off the bridge. They didn't have time. They looked over, and the car completely submerged. They dropped everything. They ran and jumped into the water and had to break out the back glass of the vehicle and brought both of them out. I think you'll hear their testimony. And he is willing to start telling everybody, going radio, whatever it takes. We can put him on our public channel also, about how dangerous it is to think that you can drive around. People don't understand. You got 4 tires full of air, and water gets underneath you, become pretty buoyant at that point in time. Or you get some people just go, watch this, I can do it. You know, we got a lot of those guys here in our state. But until the county does a resolution or something and starts getting our law enforcement to start issuing citations, then the word will travel. The law's there that backs it up.
Well, another thing people need to keep in mind is that, unfortunately, there's just not always somebody there to come and get you.
That's correct. Yes, sir.
So there's a lot of risk associated with driving off in the water. A lot of risk.
A lot of lucky folks this time.
Yes, sir.
All right, we have reviewed.
Feel about my budget.
I'm sorry.
How do we feel about the budget?
Yeah, I was going to say, getting back on the road here. It looks like, and correct me if I'm reading this wrong, you have on page 9 basically a balanced budget, the same of last year, of $12,034,176. You have no change from the previous year. Am I reading that correctly?
You are correct.
Okay.
I've reviewed that budget, Mr. Chairman, and totally support it. It's an excellent budget.
All right. Do we have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Rachel? Any discussion? Rachel? Yes. Yes.
If you deal with school boards, as far as talking to this for a lot, about upcoming schools.
Trade lead more so than anyone else, probably.
So you understand they put in requests for more schools coming up. Is this budget going to reflect having to do road work for those new buildings once they come up?
Not specific, no, sir. No, sir. To elaborate on that just a bit, anytime that we know there is a new school either in the area or coming to the area, and we're doing our routine maintenance, we'll call it, we'll try to step it up a notch and make some level of service improvements while we're doing that routine maintenance, and that's happened a lot in the past. So there is money in there for that kind of thing, but not big projects like we've undertaken out here at Plainview. No.
That's what's concerning me. I mean, you're talking about $5 million. If we have another Plainview, that situation, that puts us in a pretty bad spot. So I understand what you're saying. I just want to make sure we're safe with this budget.
Did we not have an agreement kind of with the school board that the future sites would be looked at prior to buying the property, maybe having you sign off and 1 or 2 other people sign off on it?
There's actually a checklist.
Yeah, we had that, we discussed that and had that voted on last year, I believe.
Right. So, yes, hopefully that will be implemented and used moving forward. I think it'll be beneficial to everyone.
The other part of that conversation was for the school board to include any major renovation that they may need also, rather than put it on the back of the superintendent as well.
Be part of the site package.
Yes.
The bid package, yeah. Yeah. I mean, ultimately, it's being paid for by the county, but it falls on the school board and then the subcontractor to yeah, it's the way it should have been done the whole time. All right, we have a motion and a second. We've finished with discussion. Rachel?
Commissioner Sereno,
Yes.
Commissioner Blair,
Yes.
Commissioner P,
Yes.
Commissioner Dodd,
Yes.
Commissioner Piercy,
Yes.
Commissioner Harris,
Yes.
Chairman Kush.
Yes. What else, Greg?
Well, since I've taken up so much of your time, I do have one more thing.
Continue on.
The red light you were discussing earlier,
Yeah.
I don't know if you travel through that area or that intersection very often, but it's going, even, I know there's going to be, you know, obviously there's going to be increased traffic, especially during an event, but that's a very large intersection, and it can be a little confusing to people. I've had people call in that didn't really, had a hard time following where they were supposed to be, what lane they were supposed to be in, where they were supposed to stop, and that kind of thing. So turn that red light back on is probably going to be a good thing across the board. FYI.
All right.
Is that it? Thank you.
Well, that being said, do we need new pavement markings, do you think?
I haven't really evaluated that. I don't think so. I mean,
And can we do that, or does it have to be a TDOT thing?
it would be a TDOT thing. Those are both state roads, 840 as well as,
All right.
what is it, 456, 452? What is it? Bill France.
452.
452, yeah. So.
Okay, thank you for your input. Tanya?
I have to follow His Royal Highness. Good evening. I am going to present the March monthly report for building codes. And can I just say before I get started, I had a call from the city building codes director the other day and said that they had a record number of building permits issued in the month of February, and come to find out, so did we.
Wow.
We had, I've been with the building codes department for 21 years, and this is probably the highest number of building permits that we've issued in 1 month. So for the month of March, the building codes department issued 510 building permits, as opposed to this time last year, we issued 287, and last month, 326. Of those 510, 120 of those were single-family dwellings. We also seen a big increase in accessory structures and additions. You know, usually with spring coming, people get into home projects and stuff, but more so than usual this year. We've seen double the amount of accessory structures and double the amount of additions that we typically see. For a total revenue of $197,198. We did just shy of 2,000 inspections and drove a little over 11,000 miles.
Wow.
And
Okay.
sorry?
No, I'm just amazed. All right.
Chairman, your record was single-family or total permits?
Both. Yeah. We had, earlier this year, we had, in January, we had 114. That was the highest we'd ever had. And then this month, we did 120, single-family dwellings. If nobody has any questions,
We can take these reports one at a time, all three.
I will go on to development tax. Development tax was $491,250. And there was no apartments. Those were all single-family dwellings. We haven't seen any apartments yet this year. Still no questions? All right, I'll move on to zoning enforcement. We did 182 inspections this month. I will say that we did a sweep of a lot of those numbers. We did a sweep of illegal signs and stuff where the inspectors had a couple of slow days, so they went through the county and picked up a lot of illegal signs and stuff, so that's where a lot of those numbers came from.
All right. questions for Tanya? So this, with 3 months left, right, in this calendar year, you are on pace to bust your...
We will definitely exceed what we did last year. Yeah, for sure.
You're only $1.3 million shy of busting last year's numbers with 3 months to go. Any questions? If not, I need a motion for approval of her reports.
So moved.
And a second. And a second from Shanto.
Commissioner P.,
Yes.
Commissioner Harris, Commissioner Piercy,
Yes.
Commissioner Blair,
Yes.
Commissioner Dodd,
Yes.
Commissioner Sereno,
Yes.
Chairman Cush.
Yes. Tanya, what else do you have for us?
That's it. That's all I've got.
Thank you so much
Thank you.
for your diligence. Doug?
Evening, everyone. Hope everyone's having a good day so far today. Just dovetailing off of what Tanya was just talking about. The first thing we'll talk about is our available lot inventory. Our available lot inventory, reflecting the permit activity that we saw last month, went down to below 800. Hasn't been that low, and it's been a little while. So we're at 780 total available lots right now. Surprisingly, last month we didn't have a whole lot of final plats recorded, larger ones. They're out there, and I do expect that we'll be seeing some of those this month and in subsequent months. So that number will change, but that number went down about 90 to 100 units right there, based on the activity that Tanya saw. So it's not slowing down, especially now that we're into the spring months and everything, and buildings really ramping up. Things are really moving forward. So I just wanted to at least point that out to you. Is there any other questions about the available lot inventory? All right, if not, I will jump into the rezoning report. We do have 3 rezoning requests coming to you next week. The first is for property located along Franklin Road. Mr. Jim Heisen is the applicant. He's asking for an amendment to his originally approved plan development, which is called Saddlewood, which was approved back in April of 2019 by the Board of Commissioners. He was originally looking to do 133 units. It was going to be about a half and half mix of single-family detached and also 4-unit townhome structures. With the recent approval of the community on the Burgess property, that Del Webb community that you approved back in November of 2020, they've kind of reevaluated their plans and are looking to do a different type of development to complement that. So rather than have 133 total units, they are looking at 124. So that's a decrease of 9 units, but rather than being a mixture of single-family detached and townhomes, they're asking to go for completely townhome. So there'd be 124 villas, there'd be a total of 31 buildings on the property, each being a 4-unit structure. That's the major change that they are looking at. There's also a change to the layout of the property. There is a pattern book on your iPads that you can take a look at that if you would like. These would be sold as zero lot line properties, sidewalk on both sides of every street. The streets would be private. Minimum size of these would be 1,600 square feet. That'd be the minimum size of the units themselves. Most of the discussion that we had at the Planning Commission regarding this item regarded the internal streets themselves as far as parking. The applicant is placing some parking lots around the development to help with guest parking and those kind of things. There was some concern about just parking on the streets. Again, these will be private streets. The applicant did indicate they would not allow parking overnight, but during the day they would allow it. There was also discussions on the traffic improvements along Franklin Road. The original development that was approved for this property did include turn lanes from 96 onto this property. This project includes them as well. So none of that had changed. There was also some questions about the drainage of the property. Of course, they would have to do a full drainage submittal to our office when they do the site plans for the townhome units, should this be approved. So after discussion, the Planning Commission did recommend a unanimous approval for this. So again, they did recommend approval. That is 8-4 and 0 against. The second rezoning request is for property along Old Nashville Highway. This is also for a property that wasn't in the not too recent past, was brought before the Board of Commissioners back in June of 2019. The original request for the property was for a portion to be zoned commercial neighborhood, with the remainder being zoned light industrial. And the maps that you'll see on your iPad will kind of show the area that they're asking for. The Planning Commission at that time recommended commercial general instead of light industrial, mainly because of the range of uses that can be allowed in the light industrial zone. So what the applicant is asking for now, he doesn't want to change any of the commercial general portion of his property. He is asking to change a portion of the commercial neighborhood, which is a lighter commercial zone, to commercial general, similar to that, in order to give him a little more flexibility. What he'd like to do is he's creating what he's calling, he calls business mini warehouses. If you're familiar with development on Thompson Lane, right near the Greenway, inside the city, it's basically like a little area of office condominiums, in a sense, for lack of a better word. They have an office front, but then they have like storage areas in the back. He'd like to do something like that on the property, as well as a pool business on the property that's his primary business. This would be something that he would do in the future for those business condos. Most of the concerns that were raised during the public hearing included traffic safety along Old Nashville Highway, drainage, zoning enforcement, how our notifications are sent out for rezonings, things of those concern. The Planning Commission did ask the applicant about the amount of traffic they produce any given day. The was answered about 6 to 10 times per day on the back portion of that lot, the area that's going to remain zoned commercial general. The traffic, we did state that a traffic study could be required whenever a site plan was submitted for us to adequately review the traffic coming in and out, and if any improvements to Old Nashville Highway would be required. We did discuss the differences between the commercial general zone, what they were asking for, as well as the commercial neighborhood and commercial services zone. Following all that discussion, the Planning Commission did recommend commercial services zoning instead of commercial general by a unanimous vote. The zoning that the Planning Commission did recommend would still allow the applicant to do the office project toward the front that he was wanting to do. He couldn't so much do that on a commercial neighborhood, but he could with commercial services or commercial general. So again, that was the recommendation of the Planning Commission for that item, was for the commercial services zone. The last...
Mr. Chairman, excuse me.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
May I ask that indulge the committee and separate the third item from the other two? Since I'm involved in the third one, if we could consider the first two independently so that I may discuss and vote, and so I can abstain from the third.
Duly noted.
And having said that, well, if you need a...
You want me to go ahead and explain the third one?
Are you finished with your second one?
With the second one, yes, sir.
Okay, yes. Per Commissioner Dodd's request, we are going to vote on the first two and keep the third one a separate item, since Phil has some interest in that development. So any questions on the first two developments?
Yes, sir. Did the staff concur with the CS zoning?
Staff was fine with that, yes, sir. It's going to allow him to do what he wants to do still, so that's, yeah, either zone would work.
What was the vote at the Planning Commission?
I'm sorry, the vote for that item, that item for on Old Nashville Highway, Commissioner P, that was unanimous, 8-4-0 against.
And on the other one?
The same. It was the same.
All right, need a motion for first two items.
So moved.
Need a second.
Second.
Rachel?
Commissioner Sereno,
Yes.
Commissioner Blair,
Yes.
Commissioner Dodd,
Yes.
Commissioner Harris, Commissioner Piercy,
Yes.
Commissioner P,
Yes.
Chairman Cush.
Yes. All right, Doug, continue
Thank you.
on with item 3.
Yes, sir. The third item that we have for rezoning, which will be coming again before you next week, is for property which is located along Richardson Road. This is in Commissioner P's district. The applicant's planning to construct 171 single-family detached units on the subject properties. Under its current zoning, which is RL, they could have a higher density because the area does have enough water capacity to allow for the provision of fire hydrants. So they do qualify for the density upgrade and being served with a step system. So a maximum density they could get on that is 243 single-family lots. Now, of course, that's in a perfect world. They're never going to be able to get that. When you take out right-of-way, when you take out easements, other issues on the property that just shouldn't be that need to be planned around, what you're looking at is closer to somewhere around 125, 150, closer to 150 is really what you'd be looking at. The minimum lot size is proposed to be 6,500 square feet, with a typical lot being a little larger than that, 6,720. Minimum lot width, would be 56 feet at the right-of-way line. Minimum house size is 1,400 square feet, and they would have a 3-bedroom and 2-car front entry garage. Homeowners Association would maintain all common areas. Again, the pattern book is located on your iPad should you want additional information. One of the concerns as staff that we've had, that we relayed to the applicant and their design team, is with these smaller lots. We've seen issues, especially in the backyards, a lot of drainage easements and things, not having much of a usable backyard. The applicant has provided 2 different types of lots here, 120-foot depth and 150-foot depth, and they've also increased the rear setbacks, which allows them to have a larger rear yard, a more usable rear yard. So we did appreciate that. This is something we've been having some conversations with the Planning Commission about as well. So we were appreciative of the fact that they made those changes. There was a neighborhood meeting that was held on this particular item. Issues discussed ranged anywhere from traffic concerns, drainage and wetlands. There is an existing cemetery on adjacent property, providing access to that, and also timing of the development. The traffic study was submitted by the applicant with their application. Part of the applicant's improvements that they are proposing for this is to add turn lanes onto Richardson Road into the development, and also reconstructing a portion of that road in front of the site. It's kind of in a curve, so they'd actually be smoothing out the curve in front, which is going to make this segment more compliant with our county regulations, and those recommendations are included in your report. The turn lane recommendations are actually in the pattern book as well, so it is part of that. The staff explained to the Planning Commission, again, so what I just told you about as far as the lots were concerned and the fact that they made those changes. There was also an adjacent resident that requested some screening between his house and the proposed development. He asked for any guidance on potential damage from blasting, which that advice was passed along to him during the meeting. Upon further discussion, the Planning Commission did recommend approval, again, by a unanimous vote for this item. So, I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Do we give our question to you or Commissioner Dodd?
You can ask me. If I don't know, I guess you can answer it.
I'll be available to answer questions if that's appropriate.
So you said a traffic study was done?
Yes, sir.
And do you know how that came back?
Well, they're going to be putting the turn lanes in. I don't know if the recommendations, I don't necessarily know if they actually said that it was warranted at this point, turn lanes, but the applicant did voluntarily say that they were going to put them in, and it's in the pattern book, so they're bound by it to do it.
Okay.
So.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Chairman P.
I just wanted to say that commend Commissioner Dodd on his business ethics there. He called me well before this came out and was very receptive to helping the people in that area as far as the road goes. I've had conversations with our road superintendent, Greg Brooks, and that road is substandard for width for our county projects. And what this basically is doing, besides straightening the road there and putting a turn lane in, is helping bring this up to county standards. So it's actually going to help the people in that area, especially as that area is beginning to grow. We've got now, I think it's 3 subdivisions, major subdivisions to me, 100 plus houses within probably 3 to 5 miles of each other in that general area. So anyway, I wanted to commend him and his group that he's working with for working so well with the people in that area to help them with the roads.
All right, thank you, Chairman P. And for those listening, this was also a unanimous vote, 8-0 at the Planning Commission for approval.
That's great.
Any questions? Rachel, go ahead and call roll. Oh, sorry, I thought we did. Need a motion and a second.
I'll make a motion to approve, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you, Chairman P. We're looking for a second.
Second.
Thank you.
Commissioner Harris?
Yes.
Commissioner Blair?
Yes.
Commissioner Piercy?
Yes.
Commissioner P?
Yes.
Commissioner Sereno?
Yes.
Commissioner Dodd?
Abstain.
Chairman Cush?
Yes.
Passes.
All right. All right, Doug, continue on.
Yes, sir, thank you. This was not on the agenda, but this was a late addition. There is a budget amendment for our stormwater department and stormwater fund. If you would turn to your iPads, you'll see that on there. This is just moving money around within that budget. We're not asking for any new money on this. This is to provide additional funds to upgrade a couple of computers in our office and monitors for our engineers, Mike Hughes and Sheila Huffmeyer, and also to provide a camera microphone for the virtual meetings that we have multiple pretty much every day anymore. So basically what we are proposing here is to increase our data processing equipment by taking money out of in-service training and also zeroing out the travel line item, because with COVID and everything, most of the training that our stormwater folks are doing are all virtual, so there are no training costs. So again, this is just moving money within our budget.
And I'm familiar with their routine, and I've zoomed in with them, and I think it's a good idea, and I support the concept and make a motion to approve.
All right. We need a second.
Second.
All right, any discussion? Rachel?
Commissioner Dodd?
Yes.
Commissioner Blair?
Yes.
Commissioner Harris?
Yes.
Commissioner Piercy?
Yes.
Commissioner P?
Yes.
Commissioner Sereno?
Yes.
Chairman Cush?
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you, Doug.
Thank you.
Appreciate you. All right, Mac.
Good evening. How are y'all?
Good, good.
Anybody care to venture a guess how long our property line is when it starts right there at the junction of Landfill Road, Republic, up to the front gate? I walked it and measured it last week. It's 1,800 feet exactly. And it changes elevation 321 feet.
Wow.
It's hard on a fat man. All right, let's start with the landfill report. As you can see, the landfill report has not been extremely busy. It's been kind of normal. The flood did affect us some. If you've been to our landfill, you go through the gate, around the curves, you turn, and you're turning toward the scale house, and there's sediment ponds on the left side, on the river side. They were actually underwater. The road itself was not, but those ponds were. You could see the grass sticking up out of the water from the pond bank. But the water was continuous all the way through. And then you can see the next report is the tickets, kind of how things are coming in. Next is what we've been paying our vendors, and this is from the landfill operation and post-closure budgets. That's been requested to see those. Any questions on that so far? If you look to the last page on the expenditures, Fund 116-55770-312, Post-closure carrier contract with private agencies. You'll see we have Caldwell Environmental Solutions in there. That contract actually expires next week. Any questions so far? Okay, next was asked all the equipment that we require to have on site, what would it cost us to lease that equipment? So that page showing you how much each piece of equipment would be per month. And if you leased all that piece of equipment except for the sheep foot roller, because we don't use that very often, would be $992,000 a year. And then we were asked to come up with estimates on what it would cost to repair the existing equipment. The Caterpillar is for the D7 dozer, $37,905, so that does not include going through the final drives and the engine, which I don't think we need to. And then the Mead is actually for our John Deere backhoe, and it's coincidentally $37,300. Any questions there?
Are these two pieces of machinery in operation right now or no?
Yes. The last month's meeting, the dozer was not, but we did get the part and repaired the tracks on it, so it is operational. The backhoe has some issues. Sometimes it doesn't want to go in reverse, but we don't use it a whole lot.
Do you have an operator for the bulldozer?
Yes. Well, the answer to the question, yes. Johnny, our landfill mechanic, is also the operator. We only have 2 employees out there, the scale house operator and Johnny.
On renting that equipment, that was equipment rental only, no operators, right?
That's correct.
You said that for us to get this equipment, it would be $972,000 or whatever.
Yeah.
900 something.
Yeah,
Not including people that do it.
that's correct.
So you're saying that the contract we got with Milton is super good?
A whole lot less expensive than if we tried to do it ourselves. Yes, sir.
Okay. And let me get to the point where I'm going. And I don't want to get too far ahead of you. We had a leachate break, correct? A major one.
Yes, I was going to bring that up.
So the reason I'm asking this is because we're paying these guys $12,000 to $15,000 a week. So kind of like to know how that happened.
The leachate outbreak is something that there's no way for us to know anything about.
So did we get fined for this?
No, sir. No, we did not.
And is it fixed?
No.
What do we have to do to fix that?
Thank you.
What I've just handed out is the report from the letter, the actual letter from the state. And if you'll look at the very last page of that, corrective action is, the reason we did not get fined is because we self-reported. We contacted them to let them know what was going on. Our contractors on site, first reaction, they brought their dozer down, they scraped dirt to create a berm, then they actually got the track hoe and the dump truck going and brought in dirt and used a loader to create a larger berm. So we captured that leachate. It was running across the top of the ground, so we captured it with that berm. Then they took the backhoe and started digging into the ground to find where it was coming from to stop it from coming up out of the ground like that. The hole wound up being roughly 15 feet deep. In 2 days, it was completely full. On-site Environmental is our contractor. They come in and pump that, take it to Nashville and treat it. It costs us 12 cents a gallon to do that. And they've been pumping on that. And we have another hole similar to that on the other side of the landfill that we've been pumping as well because of a leachate outbreak. But the inspector, when he got out of the truck, he just kind of looked around. He walked over. First thing he did was shook my hand. He usually does not do that. He said, "I want to compliment you on doing what y'all did." He said, "You had a terrible situation, but you made the very best of it." So we've had leachate problems. But once we got that hole dug, and that hole was big enough to park a garbage truck in the top of it. I mean, that's how big a hole we have. But about 14 feet down to the bottom on the southernmost side is a big flat rock. I really doubt that big flat rock was put into the landfill. My assumption, that's the bottom. So if we're at the bottom of the landfill, and this is what I explained to the TDEC folks, that's our opportunity to pump this baby dry and to fix what they're wanting us to do. We have a plan. I mentioned to them what we think we should do, and they agreed to let us do it that way. We're going to keep that hole open and keep pumping on it and try to get pumped dry. That area is not in the landfill footprint. So the reason we got the V2 violation is in their regulations. It plainly states if there's a leachate outbreak outside of the footprint, it's automatically a V2, no matter why it's there. So that's the reason he gave us a V2. He didn't have a choice. But if we can pump that thing dry and keep it dry, and then we can move into the landfill footprint. And about 6 years ago, we dug our first hole like that. We called it a sump. And we pumped for a while. We pumped that, kept it open almost a year, and we got it down pretty dry. So we're going to wind up almost the same location and fill and dig and put in a pump and a riser pipe and have that as a location that we can continually pump from. So if we are truly at the bottom of the landfill, then we should be able to capture all the leachate that's at the bottom. Leachate goes down.
Hey, I've got a question for you.
Yes, sir.
Yes, Commissioner P.
I forget when it was, but in one of our meetings, and part of the discussion was the landfill and word about leachate. But you mentioned that at the top of the landfill, we had kind of a depression, kind of like a bowl. And I don't know anything about landfills per se, but I do know about water, and it kind of runs downhill. And if you've got a bowl at the top of that hill that's holding water, it seems like it would seep through. Now, do we have a depression at the top of the landfill that would hold water or channel water through the landfill? I mean, that's what it sounds like. If that's the case, it may not be. I hadn't been out there to inspect it, but if that's the case, it sounds like we need to add some dirt or round that off so the water is running off instead of being held in the depression, because to me, that sounds like an invitation for water to seep into the landfill and help create more leachate. Now, straighten me out if I've got the wrong impression here.
The bowl that you're speaking of is on the old closed landfill. It's at the very highest point of our hill, where this issue is at just outside the toe of the C&D site, which is on the opposite. So you've got leachate coming out near the road that you drive up, and then you've got the C&D site, and then you have the Class 1 facility. So to answer your question, yes, there was a bowl up there, and we've addressed that and put some more dirt on it to help that drainage area, but it's not in this same location.
So there's not a bowl up there now that's causing water to hold?
Right.
Okay.
Mac, is this something that is going to be can be a numerous occurrences?
Yes, can be.
So remind me again, how much is it going to cost to fix the landfill?
When we were working through the GBB studies, to dig our landfill up and to move it next door was roughly $6 million. We don't have that option anymore, so if we're going to do it, it's going to cost us more money, I'm sure. But to actually get it fixed, finalized. The other thing, going back to what Commissioner P was asking, is the C&D site is not capped. We've intentionally not capped it, waiting to see what we're going to do with it. There's no need in hauling a bunch of loads of dirt up there just to move them off later. So, so the thin layer, it's a thin layer, so is it letting some of the liquid through? Good possibility, but it's not a bowl for it.
So what would this occurrence cost the county?
What did this occurrence cost?
What happened? Is there a major cost to the county on this problem?
Yeah, we're going to wind up with a budget amendment for leachate, for hauling the leachate out.
Okay, and what is that? Actually, let me back up. When's the last time this has happened?
That particular area was 6+ years ago, 5 years ago. If you go across the scales and head toward where we burn our brush, there's a road that goes up the hill. Right before you get to that road, we've got another hole opened up that's right at the toe of the landfill there. And we will eventually build a permanent sump, higher elevation. That one's too low to actually put a sump in. It'd be hard to keep it from running over. So we've got 2 existing holes right now to help control the leachate and to keep it out of the water stream. We're looking at, and we'll cover it here in a little bit, $30,000 budget amendment to take care of leachate.
But to clarify, and Matt, correct me if I'm wrong, it hasn't been 5 years since we've had our last leachate breakout.
No.
It's been 5 years since that last location.
That is correct, yes.
We've had multiple leachate issues.
Yes.
And I'm going to emphasize the word multiple in the last 3 to 4 years.
Right. And on the front side of the landfill, if you're coming up Jefferson or Landfill Road, you pass Middle Point property and you see that long slope across there that kind of runs parallel to Middle Point and runs over to their other property line fence. There has been some seeps coming out of that, and they were determined to be just stormwater. So we're trying to figure out how that's coming out. At the bottom of that slope, there's no trash right there, but that slope was not an original slope. It was filled back in where they dug dirt, but it's pretty steep. Probably 3 or 4 years ago, we dug in and put a French drain. Dug as deep as we could and came across probably 150 feet or so, and then turned the drain out to where it could drain right there at the bottom. And that doesn't drain much. Now out further toward the Middle Point side, it was not really running, but it was more than a seep, but not really a stream. But the inspector did not think that was leachate. He was thinking that was stormwater.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
I want to back up to follow on Craig's comments. It seems like we had done $50,000 a couple of times a year amendments over the last few years. So yeah, we've been hitting that pretty hard. Now, having said that, I've looked through your budget, but I don't recall this particular item. Do you have a leachate response line item to cover this $100,000 plus a year that we've spent thus far?
Yes.
And I don't want to jump ahead. We'll get to that when we get there, but I'm just trying to embrace Craig's line of questioning.
Post-closure care line 366. Now, we had decreased that line item in the past, so we're going to probably increase it this coming in the future, but that's where that line, on-site environmental, who that one's is with.
Mac, a question, a housekeeping question. On the last page of this letter, it has a bold paragraph heading of corrective action, and basically they are saying that we as the county are in the process of evaluating a fix, but it doesn't really give a timeline on the action plan. Have they given you a verbal drop dead date that this has to be corrected before they start to impose a fine, or what? How did that conversation end?
They agreed that if this is actually the bottom, we need to take what time it needs to pump the thing dry.
Okay.
So, they don't want it to be forever, but they haven't given us a deadline.
Okay. And last question, more out of curiosity. This obviously, the date of this letter or date of this occurrence was sometime in early March, it appears. Did the 5.5 inches of rainfall we had 2 weeks ago have any impact on amount of leachate or leachate breakout, to your knowledge?
I'm going to answer the question is yes, and a lot of that would be the rainwater actually falling into the hole. Some of it would be, some of it would help generate, but that Sunday when the water was still flooded, you couldn't get to the landfill from my house. You had to go around Betty Ford Road, Jefferson Pike. Right there at Middle Point Landfill, the Jefferson Pike was blocked off. But I went over and checked just to see where we were. Both of those holes were right at the top. And the berm had a little bit of leachate holding, it really wasn't leachate, but they'll call it leachate since the leachate had been there, but it was more stormwater than it was anything, but we kept it contained.
Okay, all right.
I signed off today on on-site's bill, and I think it was either 7 or 9 loads on that bill.
All right. Do we need to back up a minute and talk about equipment before we continue on? There was a lease question versus a repair question, and in the tune of approximately $75,000, give or take. Do we need to discuss that? Was that just for point of information? Is that something we just put in the file and move on for a later date? Do we need to do anything with that information?
I was asked to provide it. I'm not sure.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
And we thank you for that.
I asked him to provide it to give us a perspective on what we were paying and what it would cost to have our own equipment. And he brought those numbers back. Of course, you'd have to add operators to every one of them, and they'd have to be there where they could operate it at any given time in case we have another outbreak. You couldn't wait 2 or 3 days and get them to come in part-time or something. So that's the reason I asked that, to give comparison to what we really were paying today.
Yeah, all right. So it's good to know then the value and then what it would cost to get those things up and running in a shape either to use or to resell at this point. All right, Mac, continue on unless you guys have any further questions on what we've covered so far. All right.
Next, you'll see Commissioner P asked it, he'd like to see the bid specs for their equipment, so that's what that is. It shows the third page shows the list of equipment, and then you've got the general and the scope of work and hourly rates and all that stuff. That actually is going out for bid this week. Not sure when the bid opening is going to be, but we've got 4 bids going out, and this is one of them.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Chairman P.
Along the lines on that bid that's going out, a couple of questions. One thing that a couple of us were at least concerned with was, the amount of hours we're being charged. And on this bid, I'd like for us to add onto the bid, if it's not already there, and it may be that each time they present us with a bill, they also present the hours that each piece of equipment was run. They can, give us a log of that. Also have their people clock in and out at our weigh station and have that part of the bid process. That way there won't be any question about hours worked or machineries used.
So yeah, verification of hours and yeah, verified through punch clock. Okay. We can either amend that, or if it's already gone out, we can discuss that with the low bidder. All right. What else you got, Mac?
That's all I have on the landfill.
Let me ask a question. I've had a number of people ask me at the convenience centers if our 3-piece minimum what do you want to call it? Construction debris or heavy
Bulk items.
What is bulk items? Yes, thank you. Is that going to continue to be in play? Are we going to lift that ban anytime soon? What's your thought process on that?
I think we need to keep it in play for a little while longer. the issues that we've had that created this is still exist. We're still getting a larger volume of trash than we've been getting in the past. We'll get into that here in a few minutes, and I can show that to you. But if you're cleaning out your garage, then we can't take all that stuff. And what also it's done for us is we were really getting abused by private contractors, the little guys that drive their own personal trucks and they use the trailers. And we've been able to stop some of that. We can't catch it all. The thing that would help us best is if we could change it to where if you don't have a Rutherford County license plate, you can't come in, period. That's the only way we're going to fix it. We have a lot of people that come in that, oh, I have a Coffee County tag because I own a farm there, but I live here. Well, you need to have a tag for here, but they don't listen to that. Our center attendants get abused very heavily. Let me tell you 2 instances that happened Sunday. Like Greg, I've got my back turned to you, and I apologize. Our rock crusher center, it was 7 minutes after 3. We closed at 3 o'clock. Center attendants was trying to get everything cleaned up and wrapped up. An individual opened the gate, because it wasn't locked, it was just shut, opened the gate and drove on through, started throwing his stuff away. 3 other vehicles came in there with him. So they're trying to get those people out, and guess what tag that individual had that opened the gate? Cannon County tag. But he lives here. Weekly Lane, Smyrna, busiest center we have. We have the park-style gates right out front. We closed those first. While the center attendant was trying to close those gates, he had one of them already closed, was in the process of closing another one, and a lady ran through there, and the gate hit the back end of her car, and she wants us to pay for it. Well, she was running through the gate. So I told risk management, here's your information, but I don't want to pay for it. That's the type of individuals we have that we deal with.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Chairman P.
One thing else I want to point out while we're talking about what we're taking and disposing of and not disposing of, it's my understanding that we have free tipping fees for the county. Is that correct, Mac?
That is correct, for trash generated from the convenience centers.
Right. So if we're rejecting it at the convenience centers and not taking it, we're actually forcing our citizens to pay for dumping these, where we've already have an agreement to have this dump for free. Now the cost to us is the transportation from our convenience centers over to the dump. Am I correct in this?
Yes, you are.
Okay, so why do we want to restrict what our citizens can put in our convenience centers? The cost of hauling it over there versus them having to pay for it themselves? I'm
4 drivers short and can't hire anybody. We're running everything we've got, doing all we can do. So if we start allowing to do more, those centers will wind up closing early in the afternoon because they're full and we didn't get them hauled. Well, I don't know. I think most of us can see, what we've got going on here. If we can't hire drivers, maybe we need to up the price that we're willing to pay for drivers.
Good point, Chairman P. That kind of goes back to how convenient is our convenience centers.
Most people want to think the convenience word in convenience center means like a convenience store. That is not it. It's more convenient than it is to go to the convenience center than it would be to go to the landfill. It's closer to your home. That's what that word's intended to mean.
Yeah.
All right, on the ready to go to convenience center side.
Continue.
Now, wait a minute.
Okay.
What do you pay your drivers now?
If you start out with a CDL Class B license and no experience, it's like $17 and a little bit of change. If you've got 10 plus years worth of experience, they can count up to 5 and it would be $18.40 something cents. Now, the longer you've been here, then of course that's going to change a little bit. But
my next question is for Mr. P. Can you hear me, Robert?
Yeah, I can hear you. Go ahead. We
both sit on the budget committee. What would you feel comfortable in adding to that to raise that pay so we could get drivers?
I don't know. It's the same situation we've got with our ambulance service and our sheriff's department. We've got openings in the county that we cannot fill because people are taking jobs in other counties. And so I think it's something we're going to have to review again, possibly with our HR director. I don't know what the going rate is in these other counties and why we wouldn't be able to hire someone. So, that's the question I got. As far as what I'd be willing to pay, I'd want to see what the market for these individuals is.
Thank you.
The last driver that we lost, which was roughly a month ago now, had been with us less than 6 months. He lives in Bedford County. He went to work for Bedford County Solid Waste. So I called Diane, she's the coordinator over that, and I said, I don't mind loaning you trucks when you need trucks, but I don't want to train you drivers for you. But $1 an hour less is what he went to work for. But it's 40-mile round trip closer to home each day. So I can understand it.
Mr. Nolan, how about the driver for the city Murfreesboro? Is that the same pay or similar?
Murfreesboro driver pay for their solid waste department is similar to ours, but I think it's a little bit less.
All right.
Of course, you can see our landfills are busy, and you can see that the school trash bumped up just a little bit. It was spring break last week. For some reason for spring break, our centers get more busy. The flood hurt, and the way it hurt was a lot of the busy centers had road closures getting to them. Like Walter Hill, most of the people from Murfreesboro come to Walter Hill. Well, you couldn't come up Memorial Boulevard and turn right on Jefferson Pike. You had to stop there at Hedge-Apple Lane because it was flooded the rest of the way. So guess where they went? Leanna. Leanna's not designed for that much traffic. But, we wound up getting the trash. We just got it in different locations. But our centers have been more busy, and they've stayed quite a bit more busy, and most of it's the compactor trash. But we have limited the bulk items. We're taking 3 bulk items and a fixture. And a fixture would be a lamp, a toilet, a closet door, a storm door, something like that. We're not taking roofing, we're not taking guttering, and we're not taking the parts of the house. We're just taking some of the amenities that you would add to the house. Recycled commodities is still saying about the same as far as contamination. We're still suffering with some contamination in some locations, but we're still taking the recycled commodities that are not contaminated to waste management as far as the plastics and the glass. And then paper, cardboard goes to here locally in Laverne, and metals go to local distributors here, or local metal houses here. If you look at the landfill or the convenience center report where it shows you tonnages, go to that last page. The bottom lines there is the 2019 versus 2020 is what it says there. So we're into 21 already, but you can see the compactor trash is trending quite a bit more heavy. Any questions?
Recycling kind of holding steady?
Somewhat, it is somewhat. We've got people that do a lot of wish cycling. They want to recycle something, but it's not recyclable. The waste management's who we take our plastics to. They want water bottles and detergent bottles. They don't want plastic totes. They don't want the yogurt cups and all that type stuff. So a lot of the die-hard recyclers don't like it that we can't take that. But if you put it in there, then they deem it contamination.
All right. Questions for Mac, or at least particularly, let's stay on his report at this point. Any discussions on his solid waste report? If would be seeking a motion in a second.
I'll make a motion to approve his report.
Thank you. Vice Chair?
Second.
And a second by Commissioner or Chairman P.
Commissioner Chirino,
Yes.
Commissioner P,
Yes.
Commissioner Piercy,
Yes.
Commissioner Harris,
Yes.
Commissioner Dodd,
Yes.
Commissioner Blair,
Yes.
Chairman Cush.
Yes. All right, Matt.
Now I've got a comment. Wait just a
Yes,
minute.
yes, sir. Go ahead.
We go over a lot of this every month with Mac. Issues, questions, why this, why that, but we never fix any of it. The ability to fix it lays in the hands of this committee with motions and seconds and votes to approve, but nothing, we very seldom touch any of it. And I think we'll continue to have these questions repeated over and over until we do. Now, I know I'm one, I could make the motion myself, but I don't feel like I should make all the motions, but I feel like we need to either help Mr. Nolan or talk about stuff we can do. I don't really know the words how to put that in. Well, I'll put it in the words like I feel. I think we're picking on him. We're not furnishing the money or the help. He can't get help, so we pick on him. Well, it's our job to fix his problem, just like Mr. P said we could raise the pay. Well, it was discussed. It'll probably be discussed again in a month or so, and then maybe a month or so after that. But most likely, it'll stay the same because everybody else's pay will most likely stay the same. I just had to vent that a little bit. Thank you.
So, what exactly do you think we're supposed to do? I mean, is he not paid to do that job? You say we pick on him, but is that not his job?
It is his job. He is paid to do that job, but are you making any effort to help him fix the problems we're asking about?
Okay.
We're not.
Let's go there. Number one is we're paying a company $12,000 to $15,000 per week. I've been on this for 3 years, have I not? And so that to me, what I'm having a hard time with is just in the last 30 minutes. We have talked about inconvenience, convenience center, a late break, and the inability to retain workers. Those are 3 things we just talked about. And so those are the times, what I'm saying is, Mac, that falls on you. I don't think Mr. Piercy's completely correct when he says it falls on us. It does not fall on us. It falls on the head of the department. So he asked, what can we do? I mean, shouldn't it already be done? I mean, why are we losing workers? You said it wasn't money. He went for $1, less. So it's not like it's a major thing. Now, EMTs is a major thing. But what I'm trying to get at, I'm concerned about the 3 things that we were talked about in this 30 minutes, and then Mr. Piercy gets up and will say it falls on the commission. It does not fall on the commission. It falls on you.
Okay. When's the last time you called an EMT? When's the last time you called the sheriff? When's the last time you went to Paul's? And when's the last time you went to the hospital? Any of that. When's the last time you threw away something?
Every day?
Yes, but you don't call those other departments every day, but you support those other departments a whole lot more than you want to support this one.
How do we not support you? How?
Just like the leachate. I did not create that problem. I have to suffer with that problem. I inherited that problem. It's not my fault we have it. And the only way to fix it is to dig up the landfill.
Okay. And are we not trying to do that with RFPs?
We are.
Are we not trying to assist you with that?
We have drug our feet for a long time. I've been on this path for 9 years. You've been on it for, what, 6?
No, I've been on it for 3, and look how far we've come. So, yes, I feel like we have done a good job. Especially this, me and Chairman Cush don't agree on everything. We don't. But we agree on this. And I'm telling you, I feel like this commission is doing everything it can, exceptionally this committee, to try to help you be better. Now, I don't know if I'm wrong, please explain it to me.
We have tried to change the direction of flow at Walter Hill for, 8 months now? We've not been able to get that accomplished. We've got,
What about Leanna?
got a guy working on it. That's not my working on it now. That's the engineers.
We discussed that back 2 or 3 years ago.
Yes.
And that should have been done. You got the money.
But we don't have anybody to do it. We put it out for bid.
Well, I think the thing that bothers me is him thinking that it's us. And I don't think that. I really don't think. I think this commission has tried to support you in many ways. I don't agree with you on a lot of stuff. We know that.
I know that, yes.
If you take it personal, I mean, that ain't my problem because I'm not taking it personal.
Okay.
I'm just doing what's for the county.
Okay.
But I think, one of the things I have harped on is this $12,000 to $15,000 on this Milton.
We
I've
cannot
harped on
do it
that, but it's-
ourselves
no,
cheaper.
The reason I'm mad, and I'm not mad, the reason that I'm questioning it is because I feel like, in my opinion, you have let them just have a free checkbook.
Well, you're completely wrong.
Okay, so before I brought this up, before we brought it up, there was no idea how much they worked, how many hours they worked. You didn't know that. You admitted that yourself. So you see where I'm going with this.
Right.
And I think, I think I'm coming at you a little bit harder. I'm more coming at him than I am at you.
I'm a big boy. I can take it.
And that's good. And I'm going to tell you that's vice versa, too. I just feel that in the 30 minutes that we talked about convenience centers, we talked about laissez breaks, and we talked about losing employees. I mean, that's 3 things that we had to address. So how do we help you do that?
HR has a consistent, ongoing posting for convenience center attendance. We hired 3 this month, kept 1.
Why is that?
One of them didn't pass the background check. The second one, when HR would call the person to come in and do the paperwork, oh, you got to do paperwork too? Never would come in and do the paperwork. The third one actually showed up, did the paperwork, and she's been training. This is her 2nd week of training. But we don't get those applications very often. And then the driver applications, they don't have experience. And one of them doesn't even live in the state.
How can we help you? You're telling me the problem. I'm just saying, what's the solution?
I'm doing...
More money for a truck driver? Is that what it is?
It will take more money to get people hired, yes.
Okay, and then you
But
say...
I don't control that. I have no control over their salaries.
So you feel that, as far as the laissez problem goes, we should pay the $6 million and have it relined?
Have it dug
That's
up.
the best way to do it, right?
It is.
So we're basing it on 2 breaks every year, which is $100,000. Is that correct? $100,000 a year is what we're paying on breaks?
Not necessarily that much.
Not that much? That's what you budgeted though, right? Okay.
Well, the budget covers the leachate outbreaks. Now, the leachate hauling, that's not including the outbreaks. That's just to haul the leachate when we have it.
But one of the things that I have said on this RFP is I want the landfill gone. So would you agree with me that would be a good idea?
I will.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
I'm going to ask that perhaps Sonia come to our next meeting and explain a little bit about what we can do to, or if she can put together some kind of a dollar per hour, or see where other communities are of our size.
No, that won't work.
Well,
and the reason I'm saying that won't work is when they compare us to like-sized counties and organizations, y'all will not pay for that much money. We're compared to more of the Bedford County-sized people. That's where our salaries range.
who makes that comparison?
Y'all do.
Well, we're not a Bedford County sized, so maybe that's where the problem lies. So I'd like to have Sonia explain on where the analytics come to derive a price. Right?
Yeah, and I'd also like to look into...
Hold on. If we're projected to be the 4th largest county in the state of Tennessee, how in the world could we be compared to Bedford County or Cannon County? Explain that to me.
Because you're hooked on free disposal. You're hooked on doing things the way you did it 30 years ago, and you don't want to change anything, and you don't want to raise the budgets.
Yeah, I know, but I'm trying to help you out here.
I'm trying to help you out.
Oh, I know, but we've all agreed, this whole committee has agreed and come to the conclusion that free is about to be gone, right? And it's going to come with some serious, tough decisions. That's why there are serious, tough people on this committee. So we got a long way to go and a short time to get there, and there's going to be some major changes to the way this county handles solid waste over the next 12 months. And it's going to have a whole new look, perhaps a whole new look. And there'll be fees and costs that people will have to be educated on and understand why they're paying what they're paying, because free's about to be gone. Now, we could start our own little bitty landfill and do just the county, and maybe for convenience we put it right downtown. Who knows? That way everybody can drive a short period and then grab a sandwich if they want to while they're down here. But we'll figure something out. But Mac, I hear what you're saying, but the point is we are not, if we're about to be the 4th largest county in the state, we need to act like one. I've heard that comment before from a gentleman to my left, right? We are a growing, thriving, innovative community and a county. Our salaries can't be compared to somebody next door that has got a 10th of our population. So I'll talk to Sonia and ask her where she's getting her analytics, because you are right. You are right. Would you do this job for $17 an hour? If you had a high school diploma, if you didn't have a high school diploma, would you do this for $17 an hour? I wouldn't. I'd work at a fast food and make that much money. I'd wash dishes and make that much money where it's air conditioned. So we got to do something.
I invite each and every one of you, as far as I know off the top of my head, the mayor, deputy mayor, and Commissioner Dodd are the only ones that have seen our solid waste facility. You remember being there? Our drivers come to work to a storage shed with a porta potty and a little water cooler that's their running water, and it has hot water in one side of it where you can actually make coffee, but that's how they wash their hands. And our trucks are parked in there so tightly, it's a wonder we don't tear them all to pieces. We're on the smallest little lot here, but nobody worries about it, and it was a temporary move almost 20 years ago. We bought a piece of property on Florence Road and intend to fix that. We ain't got permission to move forward yet. And a lot of projects get held up because there's no funding. We have the fund balance. So pick on me, big boy.
Well, I'll tell you what, I will pick on you. 'Cause
Okay.
number one, we did do something to get this better because we did a motion to let the mayor try to make it better convenience centers. Building places for you to have. Big boy.
And what's happened
Right?
with that?
And that's one of the things that I'm trying to tell you. We are trying to help you. We are trying.
Okay.
It's time for you to start helping us.
I have been trying.
Well, I'm telling you what, constantly battling with you, I'm getting tired of it.
I am too.
I am too. I'm getting really tired of it because
I am
all we
too.
do is battle all the time. And I don't want to battle. I want to do what's best for the county and get it better. That's all I want to do. Now, if you think I have a ulterior motive, that's up to you. I don't.
Okay.
I'm looking you in the eye, I'm telling you I don't. I'm just telling you I want this county to do better.
Okay.
I want our convenience centers to be upgraded. We gave him a motion. We asked him to do that. So I feel like we're trying to do something. And, you sit back here and you say, we don't do nothing, we don't help you 30 years ago. Been here 3 years, Mac, we've done a lot. A lot. I'm not saying we're there, we're a long ways from there, but we've done a lot. We got RFPs, some that ain't been done in 30 years. So we're trying to help you get better.
So I have not seen the prices on them because it didn't come with prices, but when we see the prices, my fear is you're going to get sticker shock and you're not going to do it. All right, I've got budget amendments. Y'all ready to do budget amendments?
Go on.
The first line item is communications, the telephones. We need to move $10,000 into the communications so we can at least finish out this month with that. The next one is $15,000 for vehicle maintenance. If you remember, our contract for our truck maintenance went up at the first of the year, so we're going to need another $15,000 there. We're going to take the money from the solid waste equipment line item, so that's the $25,000 total. Then the next budget amendment is for post-closure care. That's for the leachate. We want a $30,000 increase. We're going to take that out of contracts with private agencies. So we're taking the money from the same budgets.
So equal wash, equal transfer.
Yes.
All right, any questions for Mac? Seeing none, would like a motion.
So moved.
And need a second?
Second.
All right, Rachel?
Commissioner Sereno,
Yes.
Commissioner Blair,
Yes.
Commissioner Dodd,
Yes.
Commissioner Harris,
Yes.
Commissioner Piercy,
Yes.
Commissioner P,
Yes.
Chairman Cush.
Yes.
Motion
Chairman, can I
passes.
make a comment with all
Yes.
the back and forth?
Yes. Commissioner
Maybe,
Blair.
maybe it's time for Mac to give us some sticker shock. If maybe bring your, I've served on, I think, just 5 committees since I've been with the commission, and I see budget amendments from time to time. If maybe it's time that you not worry about us having sticker shock, that you bring to us what you feel like you have to have and put it on our shoulders. And if we say no, then it's on us. And if we say yes and you don't get it done, then it's on you.
Okay.
So I would like for us not to have these conflicts except to discuss whether or not it can be or cannot be accomplished. And that would be my desire.
Next, what I have, unless y'all have something else, is we postponed my budget discussion until this month. Y'all ready to do that?
Sure.
We'll start with the sanitation education budget. That's where the litter grant lives. And it's also where the roads are picked up and the crews are picked up. Right now, the workhouse doesn't want us to use inmates, and they're picking up the roads, and they don't have enough people either. So the budget, what I'd like to do is amend that budget and put in for 10 part-time employees, and it would cost roughly $140,000 a year.
We have a question from Mayor Ketron.
Mike, you told me last week when we revised your budget that just go ahead and take this section of your budget and transfer it over to Mr. Cope.
If that's what this committee wants to do, yes.
Well, that's my suggestion. You offered it. You said you didn't want it anymore because they're doing it. They tell me in the board meeting yesterday they're picking up twice as much trash as what had been done with their crews. Until the board meeting occurred, I wasn't going to make until I could talk to Mr. Cope and his staff. Are you willing to accept that? That's my recommendation, Mr. Chairman, that we go ahead, since they've got the crews, they've got the inmates picking up the trash, is to go ahead and transfer this over to the workhouse. Mr. Cope is willing to accept that.
All right, Mac, what line item is that on your budget?
That'd be the whole
It's the
budget.
whole budget.
Oh, that whole,
Yes, the budget.
Mr. Chairman.
148, 346.
Okay, I think I heard you loud and clear. Did you just say the sheriff's department doesn't want, they're not giving us inmates and they don't want it?
They don't want us to have inmates. but they are doing it. They're picking up the roads themselves. We're not picking them up anymore. We're going around and finding places for them to go and letting them have the list of places to go, but we're not actually have the crews on the street.
Okay, thank you. So that would segue into, you have a solution.
Yes, sir.
If COPE would accept it. Okay. Thank you for letting me interrupt, Chairman.
All right.
Mr. Chairman.
This committee understand what's at stake here? Or not that there's anything at stake, but we're pulling the $143,000 that was in max budget for the sanitation education page, and we're moving that over to corrections. Do you have any comments? And we would need a motion to...
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Commissioner P.
You know, when this came up last time, I voted against it, and this is actually the reason why is I couldn't see Mac having a crew and doing it, and the workhouse having a crew and doing it. And, you know, I'm in favor of one or the other doing it since the workhouse is doing it, and they feel better handling the inmates themselves. And I'll make the motion to move this part of the landfill budget over to the workhouse. Now, having said that, I do have a question is, will that satisfy our education requirements, Mac?
That's in that budget, so they'll have to take care of it.
That's the only part about that I question, and I'd like to hear from Superintendent Cope on that. But as far as the trash pickup themselves, I don't have a problem at all with them taking care of that. So that's my motion.
All right. Let me ask a sidebar. Does education, would that education portion fall under our current duties of Ashley? Her name slipped my mind.
Ashley McDonald. I talked at the board meeting yesterday at the correctional work facility. Mr. Cope said they had a woman out there that would do fairly well in taking care of this educational budget. And I talked to Ashley as well, and she said that she could work with that lady. She knows that lady. But Mr. Cope will have another crew put together. He's got a woman's crew now that's out working on the interstate exchanges, all dressed in their work uniforms, reflective uniforms, and been noticed by several citizens calling and complimenting that they've given the women an opportunity to get out and pick up trash as well and along the interstate. But the trash still continues. It appears that we're not going to be able to increase the fine. I talked to Jeremy Faison, Representative Faison, in the House of Representatives, and it looks a little late to this year. We'll come back next year, introduce a bill, because there's two conflicting bills in the code right now. One says that we can fine up to $500 for littering, as this committee approved, up to $500 first occurrence, $1,000 second. Section of the code says that county commissions can allow up to $500. However, in another section of the code says that you can only fine $50 per person unless there is a jury provided by the judge. And if they contest the $50, the individual contests the $50, then the judge has to seat a jury trial for anything over $50, which our general sessions judges do not have that authority to seat a jury. So there's a conflict in the code. So they're going to go back and try to change that next year. But they, I think Mr. Cope and his groups, after Mac made that offer, go ahead and give it to him. Then I approached him yesterday at the board meeting, and I believe Ashley is, and the lady out there, I haven't met her, but they're prepared to take on this grant.
All right.
That grant's $113,200, and $33,860 or $960 has to be spent on education. Cannot be spent on anything else.
Okay.
And with the schools opening back up, based on what they're saying, I believe that Mr. Spurlock is saying that everybody's planning on going back to school full time. So because of COVID, they haven't been able to get in and do any education this past year, but they feel like that they can get into the schools this coming August to start that.
TDEC allowed us to, and Ashley did it all. I'm not taking any credit for it. The Recycle Coach app that's on our waste site, TDEC allowed us to pay for that through the education fund since we couldn't get into schools and that type of stuff.
Yeah, go on our website. It's a kind of cool little thing, and I think we had CUD put some stuffers in their bills that they sent out that had the Recycle Coach thing on there with the little animated figures. So that was good as well.
A lot of that thing is intended, once it's completely built, is basically what goes where. You get on the app and say, I have paper clips, and it'll tell you what location takes them and what you need to do with them.
All right, we have a motion. I'm looking for a second, I believe.
Second.
And it sounds like our education part of that transfer will be in good hands. So, Rachel?
Commissioner Harris?
Yes.
Commissioner Dodd?
Yes.
Commissioner Blair?
Yes.
Commissioner Piercy?
Yes.
Commissioner P?
Yes.
Commissioner Sherino?
Yes.
Chairman Cush?
Yes. All right, Mac.
Passes.
Next, we have the convenience center budget, and that's where we stopped last month. The mayor had asked that we look at hours, and he and I discussed that. He's busy. Okay. He compared to what he would like to see us do is do something similar to what's happening in Williamson County. So I went to Williamson County and we looked at what they had, and I talked to the folks to see how they do what they do. So my wife and I talked about it, and she actually came up with the formula to explain it because I was going too deep. Craig Harris works at a convenience center every other week, 40 hours a week. That's 30, and the center's actually open 37 and a half, but we're going to go to 72 hours. So to cover what Commissioner Harris does, it's going to take 3 people. And the way they operate the shift is we're on a 2-week pay period, week 1, week 2. So Commissioner Harris would work week 1, Monday and Tuesday. Week 2, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Commissioner Piercy would work Wednesday, Thursday, Friday of week 1, Thursday, Friday, week 2. Commissioner Sherino would work Saturday and Sunday. And to do that for all of our centers would take 69 people. We should have 40. We actually only have 38 right now, but in what I was requesting in the budget was to add 5 more, just so we can have 2 people at all the busy centers. Going back to the discussion we had earlier, that's 1 person working the center on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, and it's been going like that for 35 years, so it's too busy for that now. But the dollar figure just on salaries alone was $670,000.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir. Be
I
recognized.
got a question for the mayor. Mayor, this has been your idea from day one.
Yes, sir.
We have went back and forth on this. My question to you is, you had talked to Williamson County, am I correct?
That is correct.
And this is the model that you're using is Williamson County.
That's correct.
My question to you is, how many employees do they have to do what we're going to do?
I sent Mr. Sandlin over last week. He met with their director. Mr. Sandlin, do you remember the number that Williamson County has? Is it 52 or 48?
When I talked to them, they had 50, was looking for 2.
They have 12 facilities. We have 14, but you would add the recycling facility on Haley and make us 15.
So we have 2 more locations than they do, but you said 69, correct? So that's a difference of,
69, where'd you get that number?
He said 69 additional employees.
Oh, okay.
69 total for us.
69 total. So that'd be 30. We already got 38, right?
Right.
So we need another 31? Okay. So how can they make it, but we can't? Why are they able to do it at that less? That's a substantial amount of money, 14 people.
They actually have 11 centers. We have,
12. 11 or 12?
I talked to them, the lady told me 11.
They have 11 or 12.
They've got 44 people, or excuse me, 46 people, 44 shifts, and 2 floaters. Is what they've got on those. I believe they've got 11. I'm looking for that. And they work a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then work a Tuesday, Thursday to get the full week. And they're all part-time. There's no full-time. They're all part-time people.
So they have 0 full-time employees.
At the convenience centers.
At the centers.
They've got a convenience center. They've got a convenience center supervisor. They've got a director of operations, and then they've got the convenience supervisor, and then they got a general foreman at the landfill. It's 3 main people that they've got over there, and then they've got a person that does nothing but the education piece.
And how many convenience centers are in operation there?
I'm thinking 11. I'm thinking 11, but I don't have it written down. I don't see it.
What's their hours of operation? Are they 7 days a week?
They're 7 days a week, Monday through Friday from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m., Saturday and Sunday from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. And they're closed all government holidays. And the lady I talked to was the one that took care of the centers, and she's the one who told me they had 50. He was looking for 2 more.
And you're looking for 45 part-time to manage the centers compared to their, how many part-time?
They're doing 46 people.
And you're asking for 45 total under your explanation?
Yes, but our hours of operation is less than half of theirs.
Yeah, just bear with me. And so the topic, the concern at hand is the part-time personnel that man the station, and we're excluding, if we're trying to compare to Williamson, we're excluding the 14 full-time drivers. I mean, I just want to make sure I'm looking at total labor force. Are we talking specifically about the 45 people that keep the gates open in comparison to Williamson?
Right.
They have 45 for 7 days a week. We have 45 for our less than that.
We're less than 45 right now. We should have 40. We're too short. But we're asking to have 45 if we can get everybody hired.
Compared to Williamson's 45. 46.
And they're paying $10 an hour on their folks, and she said she was putting it in this year's budget to go to 12. What are we paying?
We're paying 12 and a quarter, and this budget would have them going to 12.50.
So we're already paying more than what they're paying right now.
And we have 14 convenience centers?
We have 14 convenience centers that accept trash, and then we have Haley Road Recycle.
We got to count
totally
15 because there's staff over at Haley Road. There's 15.
Well, but it's 2 separate budgets. So that's the reason we don't talk about Haley Road in this one.
This is 14 staff, 14 convenience centers under this budget.
Right.
With 45 people.
Mm-hmm.
So simple math would tell you we'd need 63 people. If Williamson County's doing 45 people at 11, you make that division and you did multiply that times 14 of our centers, we need like 62 people.
Big difference that we're looking at is all municipalities in Williamson County have curbside collection. We only have one here. So we take a whole lot more garbage than they take. So we have to have more people because we have more vehicles than they do.
Yeah, that makes a big difference.
Mr. Chairman,
Drivers are getting paid.
Yes, Chairman P.
on an average, what they're running about 4 people per convenience center, maybe 4 point and a fraction.
Yes.
And then they've got those 2 floaters. And so if we've got 14 convenience centers, multiply that times 4 people, that'd be 56, and 2 floaters would be 58. And what was the number? Y'all were saying something about 60. Is that picking 59. Up Haley Road or what?
No, Haley Road's a total separate budget.
Does not include Haley Road.
No.
So basically with 14 centers, 4 people would be 56 total people just for operating a convenience center. That's the numbers I'm getting, assuming that it's 4 and a fraction.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think you said they had 2 floaters, so that'd be 58.
Yeah, right at 60 people. I have 57.27 is what my math is.
Let me help you break it down. Almaville Center today has 3 employees. One works week 1, one works week 2, one works Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. We would add another person there to where we would have 2 employees, 2 working week 1, 2 working week 2. Bradaville has 1 employee each week currently. Buchanan, 1 employee each each. Craner Road, 1 employee each week. Christiana Fosterville, 1 employee each week. Eagleville, 1 employee each week. Las Casas, 1 employee each week. Leanna, 1 employee each week. Rock Crusher, same as Almaville. 1 employee week 1, 1 employee week 2, 1 employee Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. We need another person there so we can have at least 2 people. Rock Springs, 1 person each week. Rockvale, 1 each week. Sand Hill, 2 people each week. Walter Hill, 2 people each week. Weekly Lane, 3 people each week, 4 people on Friday and Saturday. And that's covering the hours that we currently work, but we still need to have more individuals because those centers that only have 1 person, some of them are too busy for that. So that's where we're getting some of the contamination. You don't have enough time to watch for them. So, and you got to look at how busy the centers are, so you can't just take an average and fill it in that way. It just doesn't work.
The budget we have before us, convenience centers, solid waste sanitation, that has under the explanation, 45 part-time people. That's what you're presenting to us.
Yes.
And we're presenting it at current hours.
Yes.
Let me throw a wrench into the equation. So what happens if the RFPs come out and this isn't part of something we have to be concerned about in 6 months, 12 months from now?
That was going to be my question. This budget is for the next year. With the RFP, it would be more than a year before anything else could possibly be enacted anyway. Is that not correct? More than likely.
Likely.
So, you know, we're still looking at this budget, I would think.
You know, that's a hard question. Some of the ones that I've already read, some want to take over the convenience centers and run those for a price. I don't see that would take any time. Now, for somebody who wants to come in and build a state-of-the-art composting or recycling facility, you're probably taking a couple of years to do that. But to take over services and I mean, just like we've got trailers showing up this week from the
American Thrift.
American Thrift. I think they were supposed to have those all loaded with personnel this week, coming in.
By the 15th.
15th, they're coming in. So, that type of service wouldn't take a long time to ramp up. But I still think for budget purposes, until that's done, because when are we meeting with Becky?
The 12th of April, I believe.
Yeah,
13th and 14th.
Yeah,
13th,
something like
14th.
that.
We're meeting with her next week. So
Yeah.
we'll have a fairly good idea, but I think we need to pass something for going into the end of the year budget. We can always make that change before we set the final budget, I think, in January. Mike?
You're still going to have a solid waste budget, because if you privatize the whole thing, you still got to pay them. Your line items are going to change, but you still got to have the budget.
Yeah. So then the discussion really is 14 full-time drivers and the 45 part-time people is really what we're debating about. If we're doing the us versus them comparison model. Right. Are you shaking your head no?
That's what's in front of us is 45 part-time running at current hours.
Yes.
And I think it might be most prudent to not modify this and revise this and make dramatic changes to 69 people and run 7 days when we have the RFP in front of us. So I'm not prepared to make a motion because there's a lot of energy, and I want to make sure everybody has time to speak. But I would suggest we keep this relatively simple, relatively static. I know we're up a couple $100,000 because you're 594 to 654 in payroll for the part-time people. So it's not static, but you're not trying to make dramatic changes. And I'm an advocate for not making dramatic changes in this budget because of the RFPs.
And then when the mayor and I discussed it too, we are not going to be able to go from the schedule we have today to Monday morning 70 hours a week. We got to hire people, you got to train people, you got to do everything else. So you'll wind up doing it one center at a time. And the rate that we're hiring people, it's going to take a little while.
Lisa, do you have a comment?
Yes, on the budget that he's presenting.
You're not.
Make sure your mic's on. Then go really loud.
Okay, so the budget that he's presented has got five.
There you go. Get close.
5 people still working the same hours as what they're doing now. It just adds more people to the busier sites, the 3 busy sites. That's all it does. So I didn't want you, from what I heard, is that you thought the 40-some was going to get us to the Williamson County time.
To clarify, I know that it does not.
Okay.
And I think it would be unwise to chase that revision with RFPs looming. That was my only point. I would rather stay relatively static, stabilize with adding people, more people for the same shift where you're most busy. So I'm becoming very comfortable with this budget.
And moving from a quarter, giving it another quarter from 1225 to 1250, that's part of this increase.
Everybody understand? Okay.
And if you look at line 338, that's where we have Mack and Nashville. If you remember, that bid went up, and we just did a budget amendment to go up some more on that. So that's what we think it's going to take to do that next year. 402 asphalt paving. What I'd like to do at the Sand Hill Convenience Center in Laverne is grind that first layer of asphalt off and then repave the site and actually make the pavement a little bit larger. What happens there is the pavement doesn't go all the way to the edge, and we never intended it to, but it doesn't get far enough out when the residents are leaving the Packers, they're swinging off the asphalt and getting onto the gravel and then coming back, and that's creating potholes. So we need to make that asphalt extend out a little bit further in all directions. Then machinery parts, equipment and machinery parts, that's going to be the parts for the trucks. That's gone up a little bit more as well. Line 718, this year we bought 2 new roll-off trucks. That's requesting a new front loader truck. We were geared up to put another front loader truck on the street this year, but because of COVID, the schools didn't have all the students in-house, so we could make it with the 2 trucks that we have. And then the 724 site development, that's just more of a placeholder for the money to get some of the projects started. That's not going to be enough money to complete them.
All right, so Mac, on that item, we've only spent $15,000 at this point?
$15,000 as of December the 31st.
And that's basically, Jay, that's your design monies?
No.
No? Okay.
No. That Jay's getting paid out of something else.
Okay.
The Walter Hill, what he did at Walter Hill Forest came out of that.
Okay, gotcha.
So the current convenience center budget with amendments stands at $3,761,677.
Yes, sir.
And you're proposing, after conferring with the mayor, $3,835,765.
Yes, sir.
80,000 increase.
Right.
You want to do that budget, or you want to go on to the next one, or what do you want? What's the wishes?
You have any questions on this particular budget? I said we do one at a time. So, looking for a motion or further discussion.
Motion to approve because that's what the director says he needs.
All right. Need a second. Oh. All right. So did we lose him, or is he on still audible?
Got dark.
Yeah. Commissioner P., can you hear us?
I certainly can.
Okay. We just can't see you.
He's on the front porch.
Okay.
Well, it's gotten dark outside.
Okay.
So I'm sitting
All right.
outside.
I got you. We're looking for a second for the motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'll second that motion, but I do want to discuss it for a moment.
All right. Go ahead.
I'm kind of like Commissioner Dodd with the RFPs. If we didn't have these RFPs in front of us, I'd be opting to expand the number closer to 60 than what we're looking at. But with these RFPs out there, I think it's prudent that we, see what we come up with on our bids before we make some changes. But I'd like to look and like to think that if we decide to continue doing this ourselves, that we hopefully can have money set aside or have money available that we could expand this if we needed to, even though we don't have it in its budget right now. Like I said, if these RFPs weren't there, I'd be advocating adding these people right now.
All right. Rachel?
Commissioner Sereno,
Yes.
Mr. Blair,
Yes.
Mr. Dodd,
Yes.
Mr. Harris,
Yes.
Mr. Piercy,
Yes.
Mr. P.,
Yes.
Chairman Cush.
Yes. All right, Mac.
Next budget is other solid waste collections. This is basically our Haley Road budget. So it's just the normal increases for the one full-time guy. It's the 25 cent per hour for the 4 part-time individuals. And then down at the bottom, the mayor suggested taking out line 733. It's $110,000. That's a matching recycle rebate grant. We haven't gotten it from the state for the last 2 years. So if they wind up actually giving us the grant, then we'll just wind up getting some money to put in there for it. But
When will we know if we are a recipient?
that we actually have to apply for it when they have it available. It's not available.
It's okay. It's not a current request.
No, it's something that we get automatically every year, but we still have to apply for it, so they have to do the paperwork.
Right, okay.
Even at that, it'd be after July 1 when the new budget goes into effect for the state.
Gotcha, okay.
And that's your increase.
Sir?
That's essentially your increase. By removing the grant, that covers the 100, that's why it increased by 100,000, essentially.
No, the increase of dynamics, if you look at 312.
I see 20,000.
Right, and then there's another one we pay waste management out of.
I just see
$399.
733 went from amended budget to 30 to 1, and it's still at 110.
Yeah, but that's going to go to zero.
Okay, that is, you're going to remove the expense. Thank you, misunderstood.
All right.
And I'm seeing a flat budget here then.
Right.
Actually, it's going to be slightly less, 110,000 off. Motion to approve.
Okay, we have a motion to approve. Need a second. Rachel, any discussion? Rachel?
Commissioner Harris?
Yes.
Commissioner Dodd?
Yes.
Commissioner Blair?
Yes.
Commissioner P?
Yes.
Commissioner Chirino?
Yes.
Mr. Piercy?
Yes.
Chairman Cush?
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, landfill operations and maintenance.
There's very little change in this budget. It's basically a pass-through budget.
Yep, everything looks pretty much the same as last year. Any questions for Mac?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
And so, Mac, this budget is not as volatile as the post-closure. Is that correct? Is that a safe thing to say?
Yes, that is safe to say.
So holding it static is not setting yourself up for amendments in the future on this one.
Couldn't be, no, sir.
The Melton contract has remained static, and we've added 25,000 or so for part of Becky's contract. So you anticipate?
We don't know if we're going to have Becky's contract next year or not. This process should be finished by then.
Understood. Okay. You just, so having her name in here still is a little
Her contract ends this month.
Okay.
Mr. Sandlin, doesn't Ms. Caldwell's contract end this month?
The 12th.
Well,
Yes, sir. Having a conversation with her that it was up the end of this month, like April, but the job task has not been finished. And so we discussed that, and she's hanging with us until that task is done, and she's hopeful that the task is finished in description of the RFP and gone through all 9 that's applied by May 28th.
okay.
Need a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve this budget.
Thank you, Chairman P.
Second.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, Rachel?
Commissioner Blair?
Yes.
Mr. Dodd?
Yes.
Commissioner Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Piercy?
Yes.
Commissioner P?
Yes.
Commissioner Chirino?
Yes.
Chairman Cush?
Yes. All right, solid waste sanitation, it looks like.
No, post-closure.
Okay.
It'll
Went
be
too far.
the last of the 5, and it is a pass-through budget. It's the same as the current budget.
Is the pass-through on this one realistic with the leachate staying at 50? And I know you had a leachate on another one, or they had the same consultant on, never mind, it's a different consultant. Was on-site in another budget as well?
On-site is our leachate hauling and treatment, and they're in both budgets.
Okay. And one of them, they were increased
Right.
substantially.
Mm-hmm. Now, leachate it varies. So that's one of those things that, you can put more money in it. You don't know if you're going to need it or not. It's about as easy to just go, ask for it as we need it.
What's your fund ending balance currently?
We started the year around 8 million. I don't know what it is today. And the last 2 pages that are the budget is the ones that I don't control. That's the reason I don't have any money in either one of those. But
Chairman P., are you comfortable with a static budget on post-closure, a pass-through budget when we've had leachate problems in the past?
I think anytime something like that happens, I don't have a problem with the static budget, but when you do that, it's got to be understood that if something outside his budget comes up, we're going to have to cover it regardless. But, I've seen that happen in the past commissions where a lot of times the county mayor didn't want to have a tax increase and they would keep it static, and then we'd end up having to change the budgets. So regardless of whether we raise it or keep it static, we're going to be liable for those funds. So right now, I don't have a problem with it being static. Hopefully that answered your question.
Yeah, it did. Thank you.
Mac, question, the disposal fees of $1,000 on that budget, is that the 12 cents a gallon leachate disposal?
no, sir. That is, we have a leachate well on the side of the landfill closest to Middle Point, and it has an electric pump in it, and about twice a week, Johnny will go up there and turn the pump on, and you'll get it at most 250 gallons of leachate. It's in a graduated tank. And once it stops pumping, then we open the valve and it goes to Middle Point. And that's intended to pay them for what they charge us for accepting it. They never charge us, but we've got money in there in case they ever do.
Gotcha. All right. Thank you. All right.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All right. Any discussion? Rachel.
Commissioner P?
Yes.
Commissioner Piercy?
Yes.
Commissioner Harris?
Yes.
Commissioner Dodd?
Yes.
Commissioner Blair?
Yes.
Commissioner Chirino?
Yes.
Chairman Cush?
Yes. All right. The last couple of pages, as Max said, are HR related. He doesn't really have a dog in the hunt here, but I would advise you to take a quick look at them and see if you have any questions. Mac, I'm going to ask a question maybe you may or may not be able to answer. On miscellaneous solid waste sanitation, is judgments what I think judgments are?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So that would be something very hard to predict. And Okay. She has estimates. Okay. All right. All right. Any questions on those two particular worksheets? If not, need a motion to accept.
So moved.
Second.
All right. Seeing no discussion, Rachel?
Commissioner Sereno,
Yes.
Commissioner Blair,
Yes.
Commissioner Dodd,
Yes.
Commissioner P,
Yes.
Commissioner Harris,
Yes.
Commissioner Piercy,
Yes.
Chairman Cush.
Yes. All right, Mac, what else do you have?
Spent a lot of time today talking to our county attorney. He had some questions about landfill and some other stuff, so I don't know if one of y'all want to start the conversation or you want me to discuss it. His question was, Davidson County Solid Waste Board voted not to allow Southern Services Landfill to have an expansion. Southern Services Landfill is a waste management owned facility on Ashland City Highway, and it's been there for quite some time. It's got about 2 or 3 years of life left in it. And I get emails about the waste rags, you know, the different magazines that talk about waste, and I'll go through and read highlights. And I saw there Nashville denies expansion. So of course that piqued my attention. So I read through it to see what they'd done, and it said that they actually did deny them having an expansion. I wanted to find out why. How can they do that? The Solid Waste Board meets, and if somebody's wanting to do an expansion, they set for the public hearing and everything else. But if there's a good plan for an expansion, there's almost not any way to get to not approve it. So I went through and tried to read minutes and everything else, could not find them, but I did find a video of that meeting, and it was 3 hours and 59 minutes long. So I had it going all day, listening. Sometimes I'd turn the volume off because it'd have parts going on in there that wasn't going to give me the answer that I wanted to do. Long story to the short end of it is, if you want to look at that video, go to minute or hour, 1 hour and 16 minutes, somewhere in that neighborhood, and it's going to give you some discussion. And then you go to 2 hours and 19 minutes, it talks about the Jackson Law, and then at 3 hours and 30 minutes or so is when they actually do the vote. And how they pulled that off is in the annual progress report that we were required to send to TDEC every year. We sit down and write that, and there's a narrative in there. Years ago, when all this stuff first started, you had to go through and put amendments to your solid waste plan. They go to TDEC. TDEC approves them. Now that they do everything on computers, when we write that narrative, that is how we can change our solid waste plan. They wrote in their narrative a couple of years ago that their solid waste plan to get to zero does not include any new landfills or expansion of existing landfills. That's how they could say no. We're working on the solid waste plan now. It's normally due the end of March. If you remember 2 years ago, that TDEC actually asked us to ask for an expansion. That's when the mayor was talking about the different types of things that he thought he might want to do. So TDEC's idea was ask for an expansion and ask for everything, put everything in there. If you want any grant funding from TDEC, it has to be written into your solid waste plan that you are planning to do whatever it is you need funding for. If you haven't put that in there, then you're not going to get grant funding for that. So we put everything except the kitchen sink in there. You know, to try to get whatever our possible solution may be. That way, if some grant funding, anything else is available. This year, because of COVID, they have chosen, TDEC has extended the deadline to turn that in to the end of this month. So we have time. Joey Smith and I are the ones that normally sit down and write that narrative. And what we're trying to do is put in anything that we think we may want to do. I don't think it's the right thing to do is to put it in there that they can't expand. I don't think that's the right thing. But I reached out to Commissioner Piercy because I wanted to make sure he was aware, because I know that he and I are not going to be on the same sides of the fence on this one. But I thought it was my job to make sure he knew what those possibilities were. It's not going to help me get where I want to be. But it wouldn't be fair for him not to know.
Down deep, we are very close to the same side because dollars and cents is what makes the world go around. But I do think we need to allow Mac to put in a clause in his report, like they put in theirs in Nashville, to limit any new landfill, any expansion to be for Rutherford County trash only. If we don't go in that direction, somehow we will never get rid of the 30-some-odd counties of trash coming in here, and we will never get rid of the smell that's just growing more and more daily. It may not hold up in court, but it could, and it could help support the Jackson law if it comes down to denying an expansion. That's my thoughts on it. It won't hurt anything. If they sued us, all they could do would most likely get the expansion. But that's my thoughts on it. I'd love to see that put in there. Since it's in my district, it'll have to be a committee effort to do it. But I think it would really help in the future. If we're really serious about getting away from the 30-some-odd other counties and taking care of Rutherford County's trash, I think it's a step forward. Thank you.
All right. Let's say that you decide that's what you want to do. And we have this RFP that says we're going to dig up our landfill. We're going to have open up a new landfill to put some of that stuff in. We've just ruled ourselves out of doing it. If we go down that road and we do it, and then we reverse the decision afterward, because I had somebody ask me that. Well, Nick's the one asked me. He said, what if you reversed it a year or two later? Then you're definitely in for a lawsuit. It's going to be a tough decision either way. Let me one more thing. I don't know if any of you have ever actually read the host agreement. It's a document that's been around for a long time, and I actually keep it laying on the typewriter next to my desk because nobody uses a typewriter. I know where I can find it real easy. If we go down that road, free disposal will go away. In here, it basically states if we do anything to impede the way they do business, this contract is null and void. Now, Commissioner Harris.
Yeah, I mean, that contract, it's pretty, it's tight.
Mm-hmm.
So my question to Commissioner Piercy is, we're in the process of doing RFPs. All right, and I feel like if we do something like this, we're changing the rules. I mean, we've already went out, the RFPs have been accepted. So we don't know what necessarily in it, but I feel like we need to let the RFPs play itself out. I understand where you're coming from, but I feel like it opens us up for a lawsuit. I've talked to the county attorney, and it does open us up to a lawsuit, and I think that we can't change the rules this late in the game. It does not say. We were in the RFP. You read it. It doesn't say that you can't expand. It doesn't say that we stop you from doing that. It doesn't say anything like that. So I feel like this would be premature to do that because I think we need to let the RFPs play out.
To add on to that a little bit, first, where did you hear about this? I just heard about it yesterday.
Oh, this right here?
Mm-hmm.
It was brought to me by a commissioner.
Okay. But their RFI, if you remember, and their RFP, I've looked at both of them, and both, I'm sure all of y'all have looked at them. Almost toward the back of it is a color-coded map of their facility. And colored in yellow, it states plainly, it's small print, you've got to read it, that they're going to expand to the northwest side, and on the RFI, they wanted to expand onto our landfill. So they've already told us that expansion is in their plan, twice. So if we make this move now, that's going to look more like retaliation than anything else.
Say that one more time, Mac, I didn't hear it. It's going to look more like what?
Retaliation than anything else.
Thank you.
I'll try to answer any other questions I may not have the answer to, though.
So going back to our landfills, like you said, if we or somebody else says, okay, we want to mine your landfill, and then that discussion's off the table.
That discussion is off the table if they plan on putting a landfill back on that same property to house some of the stuff that can't go anywhere else. If it's going to move and leave town, then that's different. But our RFIs and RFPs, the ones that have mentioned that, they want a landfill. All but one. Straightway just mentioned the reclamation, but he didn't describe how.
So, in the same vein, if we, Rutherford County, wanted to reclaim our own landfill and accept Rutherford County trash only, would agreeing to that extra narrative or adding that extra narrative like they did in Davidson County eliminate from us expanding, if we had any room to expand, our own landfill?
I think it would. And let me tell you something. I try to be a really good guy. I actually love you, brother. I really do. I don't agree with you a whole lot. I struggled long and hard before I reached out to Commissioner Piercy trying to figure out the right thing to do. It would have been very easy to keep him in the dark and me get my way. But it was not the right thing to do. What he's trying to do for his community is exactly what I would be doing if I was in his seat. And I think if he was standing right here, he would understand why I'm doing what I'm doing.
I need to back up just to the board that denied the expansion is a state solid waste, not David, or is it Davidson County?
It's Metro Davidson County Solid Waste Board.
Who has nothing to do with Rutherford?
No. Our equal here is the Central Tennessee Solid Waste Board, which it's us, Cannon, Coffee, and Warren counties together.
And that board has to respond to expansion requests.
If Middle Point wants to do an expansion, they have to send a letter to the chairman of the Solid Waste Central Board, and they can reach out to TDEC at the same time, but TDEC's going to make them go through our board, and our board would have to do the public hearings and everything else, and then make a recommendation, up or down, and then it would go to TDEC. There is an appeal process at TDEC, and I'm sure Waste Management's already in that process.
To give you a little bit of update on what it is, the City Council voted against a landfill from expanding, but they based it under the Jackson Law. But the Jackson Law states that if you were an entity before 1989, the Jackson Law does not conform to you. So that's where the problem is, and they're going to lose in court on that. But that's exactly what was the gist of it. However, the landfill was rejected by the board, regional board, and they're appealing that decision to TDEC. But the Metro Council kind of went over what they're supposed to be able to do. Does that give it?
Yes, that's 100% accurate. And Metro Council is intending to challenge TDEC that existing landfills that already have the Jackson Law, already been through it, they still have to come back through to do expansions. Currently, that does not have to happen. So what they're trying to see if they can get that changed.
Well, we got a head scratcher. certainly see Piercy's side of the
Oh, I do too.
concern.
I can smell it at my house, and I'm 4 miles away as the crow flies.
Yeah. And I also see the flip side where RFP is out and we're not sure what opportunities are going to be needed on a private end or our own public end for expansion. And if we sign off on that, we may have cut our own throat.
The article starts out, the board denies the landfill expansion. And then the very next thing was the flood that happened 2 weeks ago when Metro showed up. No, we can't take it. They did, you're right. But what Waste Management did, and they did the right thing, as a business model, we're only going to be here 3 more years, and we have contracts with private individuals that we have to accept your waste at this amount of money for a certain amount of time. So they're decided they can't take that extra waste coming in, or they may not be able to keep their landfill open as long. So, you know, Nashville made the decision, but they had to haul that flood waste different places, most of which came here.
I don't agree with Mr. Pierce on a lot of things, but I disagree here. But I understand where you're coming from. I do see that. But the rules cannot change in the middle of the game. We have got an RFP. We have got bids coming in. We have already opened. And we can't, I just don't feel, I think you are absolutely right, Mac. It's look like retaliation. It's also stuff for a lawsuit. You've got to understand that. We have already set the rules and the game is on. We can't change it right in the middle of the game.
Did you make a motion or did you just make a comment?
No, it was just a comment. I didn't really think it would get a whole lot of support anyway, but if you're in my position, you'll look down every angle you can.
Yeah.
We put our RFP out on everything we wanted, everything. We didn't put one single thing in it we didn't want. That would have most likely been the time to ease Mr. Harris's pain on changing the rules, which it's too late now. But I can see where the expansion's coming in Walter Hill. I've seen it a long time. They'll bring it within 100 foot of the Jefferson Pike and go straight up with it. And that will also allow them to go higher where they are now and where they've already capped. It'll add several years on to the life of their landfill, and we won't need anything to do with our trash because we'll keep dumping it down there for free.
As long as we don't change our agreement.
If you can stand to live here, that will be the question you need to ask yourself. Can you live here another 25 or 30 years of more trash dumped in that one pile? It'll be tough, I'm telling you.
Thank you, Vice Chair Piercy. And the constituents in your region owe you a debt of gratitude for your tenacious fight that you continue to do to help them and protect that part of the county. Seeing no motion, we will take that as a point of information. And Mac, at this point, I'm not sure we need a motion, but it sounds like based on discussion, we are not going to put a narrative in play to limit the expansion. So.
Now, among Nick and our discussion, we on the phone several different times today, he asked if that report ever came before County Commission. It never has. It doesn't mean that it can't. It does go to the mayor. The mayor signs off on it. But it depends on how you read the language. The way I read it is different from the way Nick reads it. But he understood the way I read it was either you have a solid waste authority or a board. We have a board. We don't have an authority. And then the appointed members of the board, they're appointed by 4 different counties, make those decisions. The way he reads it is if you have the authority, then the authority does it all. If you only have the board, then it goes to county commission. It's never been that way, but if you want it to be that way, it can be. You'd just be reading a pretty lengthy document.
All right. Well, the Solid Waste Committee will meet several times, and by the end of April, if the mayor and you decide that that language needs to be revisited, then you two can bring it back up at the Solid Waste Committee. But for now, it's a dead point.
Okay, I talked to Becky at length yesterday, and she gave me some dates, and I don't know if she's given them to y'all.
She has.
Okay.
Yeah.
So y'all got that. All right. Anything else for me?
Thank you, Mac.
Yes, sir.
All right. Speaking of the Solid Waste Committee meetings, you guys open your calendars, please. Now, to refresh your memory, we have 9 participants in the RFP. And if you'll recall, at our last Solid Waste Committee subcommittee, we went down and assigned numerical assignments to those with the smallest, I'll say the smallest players, although that probably does them injustice, but the players with the fewest number of processes, let's say. We are going to look at those first, and I see no reason why we can't do multiples of those smaller groups at one meeting. And I'm going to remind you that our first meeting is next Wednesday, the 14th of April, and our next one that's in the books and has already been advertised, I believe, is the following Wednesday, April 21st. Now, let's say that we can get the first 4 done, 2 in each meeting. That leaves 5 to go. Steve already suggested and told us that with his conversations with Becky Caldwell that she is good till approximately May 28th. We're also in the middle of budget season, so the county calendar for April and May is already filling up quickly. So I'm going to throw these 4 dates at you that are in addition to the 14th and the 21st for you to see if you are available as a group to continue our RFP discussion and review of then the remainder of the 5, which include 3 or 4 big players. So 14 and 21 is already on the calendar. April 13th is open. Then we go, April 29th is open. May 12th, May 18th, May 19th, and May 26th is open. So look at your calendars and see if any of those or all of those or some of those dates you all can make as a group. I've already looked at my calendar and I can make all of those work in some fashion. So I guess we'll just start with April 13th. And by the way, assuming that when we get into these big players who have 5 and 6 different RFP ideas for all of our needs, I would assume it's going to take one whole night to go through those large RFPs. So we're going to need at least 1, 2, 3, 4 nights for those 4 big players, and then maybe an additional night or just an extended evening to capture the last small. We may be able to pull off the first 5 small to medium players in 2 meetings, but they may be long, just warning you. So April 13th, is anybody out, I guess is the best way to do this. Is anybody not available April 13th? Can we book that that's the day before? You'll have 2 in a row then, is that okay? All right, I'm gonna mark it April 13th, solid waste. All right, how about the 29th, which is a Thursday night? Anybody have a conflict?
I'm not sure about the 29th.
All right, that was Robert P. Are you a no or an unsure?
I'm unsure on that one.
Okay, I'm gonna put a question mark for that for right now. May 12th. Let me flip my calendar. Is anybody out May 12th? That would be a Wednesday. So far, so good. Robert, are you okay?
Yeah, I think so.
All right, I'm going to write solid waste down on May 12th. How about the 18th, which is a Tuesday, and then also look at the 19th, which is next Wednesday of May. 18th and 19th of May. This is actually pretty amazing. All right, I'm going to write solid waste on Tuesday the 18th and Wednesday the 19th. And then if needed, how about the 26th of May?
We've got a joint meeting with Health and Ed that night.
Okay, so 26th is out. Health and Ed, all right. Robert, can we pencil the 29th of April? Or are you available virtually, or you may be out, period?
Even if I was out, I could do it virtually.
You say you could do it virtually?
Yes, I think so.
Okay. Okay. All right. Rachel may have a change to the calendar for Health and Ed. She thinks it may be the 25th, is that what you said, of May, instead of the 29th, or 26th, I'm sorry. Are you aware of any change in that, Chairman P?
I'm not. She may be correct. I'm looking at my calendar here.
All right. Oh, you have, Blair has the 25th? Okay. We think that's been moved to the 25th.
Okay, good.
So is the 26th viable then for you all for, if needed, the last solid waste meeting for RFP review?
It is for me as long as we don't have that conflict.
Okay. All right. I'm going to write solid waste for May 26th. All right. Well, who? COTS, yes. Yeah. Yeah. All right. That fills the calendar. Does anybody need to be reminded on who we're going to discuss first? Mac does. Yes. Do you still? You can have this if you need it. Those numbers on the left are the ones in order. I have them. Okay. Mac will get his from Rachel. Any other business? 6 days? I think we have 8. We had 2 booked already, plus we just added 6. Yeah.
She sent me a tentative, or I sent it to you also. This is what she's got laid out. We'll have to get this one changed because we're not going to do the 29th, but that's how she's got it. She's got 3.
Okay. Okay. Will you modify that and mail that to the committee? All right. We've got some updated. Becky actually lumped them into what I had envisioned on how many we're going to see per day, and it's pretty much in line with what I thought. Heavy on the light ones, and then on the big ones, more dedicated to one meeting. So, gentlemen, you asked about the minutes about 4 hours ago. It's 9:30, 8:37. So it's a little over a 3-hour meeting, but I appreciate it. Like I said, we got a lot to do in a short period of time. Appreciate everybody. Any ham breakfast or anything you guys want to talk about? Case closed. Thank you all. Thank you, Rachel.